And welcome. It's Christmas time. What's happening, people? Boy, oh boy. The Sunday before Christmas. Here we are, right? How's everybody doing? Let's see. What happened this week? This week, I was on the Fallon show. This week, I started making a video for this pedal, which is almost done. I'll show it to you here. Ugh. Tom Morello's Power 50. Basically a great Marshall in a box kind of jobby, but not really plexi. More sort of a big brawny JCM 800 JMP sort of affair. Cool. Actually sounds really good. And you might notice I had 4 cables plugged into it. That's because it has an effects loop in it, which allows me to easily, what's the word I'm looking for? Add pedals in the loop. Sorry, I just realized I forgot to do something here, so I'm going to do it while I talk, and we'll see how much I can multitask. So anyway, for the video, I put a wah in the loop, and it's kind of amazing sounding. It like sounds way more when you put a wah in an effects loop, like of an amplifier. It's the same thing because that's what Tom would do with his rig. It almost sounds like a filter in electronic music. Where it really closes down the sweep of the it's just way more dramatic sounding, I guess, is what it is. And so that was kind of fun. And I used it like that in the track at the beginning of the video. This will be coming out tomorrow, so you can hear it then. But it really it's a cool pedal. Great sounding Marshall in a box. Really a nice, I tried to do me in the video. I'm not really playing like Rage riffs or something like that, or Audio Slave. Did a track, but that was like a big clear kind of big wide distortion sound that lots of notes in the chords and stuff like that, and you can hear it's got a lot of clarity and it just works really well. I really enjoyed his video for the pedal that came out the other day, which was done nicely. It was if you haven't seen it yet, it's on the MXR site. He plays his original amp rig that the pedal is designed on, which is a Marshall 2205, right? That's the model designation, I think. 50 watt, JCM 800 2-channel head. That's the amp he's used since 1988, and through this PV cabinet. And he shows that in the video, and then they show what the pedal sounds like through a variety of combos. And I really like that because that's like, okay, you can hear what this thing is based on, and then you can hear it through all these different amps. And of course, it sounds different, because it's different cabinets and amps and speakers and stuff. But captures the essence of. You get that. He could still be Tom Morello or whatever with that pedal through a 20 watt solid state amp, and it would still sound like him and stuff. So anyway, it's a well done video. I enjoyed it. So that'll be coming out tomorrow. We've been working on that. Let's get right into a super chat. It's Todd. In my studio, I would like to drop the effects from an Eventide H9 into tracks where I use the PT100 plugin. Is there a way to use H9 as an outboard effect on plugins in a DAW? Well, that would depend on your interface. Generally, there is. I will say that Eventide has a full suite of plugin effects, and that would be the easier way to go. Like, I have all the Eventide stuff on, like, as plugins. So that's something that maybe not a lot of people know, and I do use them. The H3000, for example, the micro pitch shift setting is amazing. They make a lot of great plugins, so you might look into that. But of course, that means you're investing in a little more software, and maybe that's something you don't want to do. You just want to use your existing H9, which you can do, but it requires, of course, going through a stage of A to D conversion by sending signal out of your DAW to your interface, out and output to the H9, out of the H9 back into inputs on your interface. And then you can return them. Generally, it sounds just fine, and you can do that easily if you have like an interface that has a little bit more in and out capability. It's not a difficult thing to do, and this is something that people do all the time. And when you see mixers, big mixers in the studio, like whatever Chris Lord Algae or something, and he's mixing, he's still using in many instances hardware in the studio, even though he's using Pro Tools or whatever to mix, right? Well, they're sending out of, the send on the console Well, sorry, within, he probably has it routed so that like within Pro Tools is routed out to somehow to, yeah, to, no, wait, sorry. What am I'm confused about the way that, because of course he's using a real physical board. So if you're using a physical board, then he doesn't have to do that. That's right. So, but if you're mixing in a DAW with no physical board, then you have to come out of. So anybody doing mixes, of course, he's not doing that because he's got an SSL. So never mind what I just said. That was stupid. but you know, sometimes I see people mixing like pro mixers, and if they're not using a board, you've got to get the signal out of your interface, out of the DAW somehow to those analog effects or whatever, then back into the interface, and then you pull it up on an effect return. So that's how you would do it. So just tell me what your interface is, and then let's see if it's got. You should be able to do it. You know, if it's a really small interface, it's only got say one input or two inputs and like a stereo out, then you kind of can't do it because your stereo outs are being used up for your speakers, probably your monitors. But if you've got say even just like 4 outputs and 2 inputs or something, then you can't go stereo out of the H9 back in. Anyways, tell me what your interface is, and then we'll see if we can figure it out. This fella says Morello, his main amp is a 2205. Maybe it's voiced to that amp. Yeah, that's correct. The Power 50 is directly voiced off of Morello's 2205. But the goal was to get the sound of his amp, but get it through different amps, through different, you know, and that's why in the video it's really cool that they show like different combos and stuff. It really sounds good, and it sounds like you know, like if you want a pedal that does like late 70s JMP, JCM 800, you know, through to the late 80s, kind of it does that. It doesn't have like a ton of gain. It's not like even like JCM 900 gain or something. There's plenty of gain, but you have to turn the gain control like you would on a JCM 800 or something. You turn it up to like 10 if you're trying to solo with it with no pedal, you know, like hard rock solo, you know, not necessarily blues or something, but yeah. Which wah pedal do you use? Says my knees hurt. I have a Dunlop Mini Crybaby, the little guy. It's super short. It's like that tall, and it sounds really good to me and works well, you know. It's just fine, you know, I'm not like a wah aficionado, really. So it's like a good Dunlop Crybaby is all you know, I'm not like, oh, trying 8 million different wahs. I will say my favorite wah of all time was the wah of controversy, the Axis from Vertex, which ended up being the BBE wah. But boy, did they ever sound good. I have one, but the switch is a little funny on it. It's just got a really great sound to it. I like the Friedman wah a lot too. I'll say that Gold 72 wah. Something about that original Vertex is just really, yeah, with a BBE. But I think you can still get it as a BBE, you know, whatever their wah is. And it's not expensive. It sounds great. Steven says, give us details on the Fallon show. Was it live? What studio? What guitars were in the background? So the guitars were Chris's. Actually, that was his touring guitar rack. And, you know, I would assume they, you know, came back after that horrible day and went into storage and stuff, and just have been living in that rack ever since. But anyway, they thought it would be a nice touch to put the guitars there. We recorded and filmed at Henson in LA, and that's actually it's an interesting thing because like my history with the Cornells, that would be one of the last places that I ever kind of really got to hang out with him and stuff. He was recording for the No One Sings Like You Anymore albums that are the you know, albums of covers that he was doing when he passed away. Or yeah, I guess he kind of completed them before he went on tour with Soundgarden. So, and there's a number of, you know, more tracks in the can and stuff that'll come out. But I was going there and helping him get his. I remember getting him set up on a new Mac and like installing software for him and stuff, and you know, getting Logic installed, getting Stephen Slate drums installed, getting plugins installed, and doing all that. that's my last, kind of times it wasn't the last time I saw him. I saw him one more time after those hangs at Henson, but I would go there and then I went and got him the computer. I remember I went and got him a new Mac from the Apple store at the Grove in LA, and then I went back to the studio and set it all up for him with the software and stuff, and a UA Apollo Twin, or Apollo Quad, but the little guy. And then I was also at the time giving the kids some guitar lessons. So, I would go there to Henson and he'd be in the studio working. I would go upstairs in the office or whatever with Tony and little Chris and stuff. And I'd give them each like a half-hour guitar lesson. So I got them like these memories of, and, we'd all sit around and eat dinner and stuff like that at the studio afterwards with the family and stuff. It was like, it's good memories. So that studio, there's that, I guess, those memories of kind of like the last times that I really got to hang out with him. So that's where we did it, actually. And so to hang with Tony there and then do a song with her was sort of poignant, And you're saying, was it live? Yeah, it was live. I mean, it's a live tape. We did a few, runs through and stuff like that, like you would in the recording studio. But what you hear is there's no overdubs or anything. It was we just did it and then picked one like you would a live recording in the studio. A lot of these shows these days are doing things where so during COVID, of course they locked down all the television studios and stuff, and then this is why you see guests, now on Zoom or something or calling in. It's really changed the late night TV thing, hasn't it? It's like very different. For a while, it was like, the host at home or something, right? And then with that, doing it that way. Now they're back in the studio, and I guess everybody's tested, and it's a little bit more like you've got some people together in the room with the audience. But many times you don't have the live guests anymore, and the musical stuff is done also sort of, not really farmed out, but done at different locations, And when you think about it, that's probably like for the television studios, I'm sure now they don't have to record a band. Now they don't have to have all these people in. Now they don't have to have a mixer mix it in 10 minutes right after the show. You know what I mean? So it's done a little bit different now. It's changed the way that late night TV has, and you see, of course, even this week, I think on SNL, didn't they not have a musical guest or something, or because of the current situation, Omicron and all that stuff. So it's just changing, so much. But anyway, it lets you go to, a studio like Henson and do a, amazing live recording, essentially, where you can set up. I mean, it's interesting because it does shift the cost of the production away from the television folks onto the labels and the artists, though. That's the thing, because now you've got to, hey, you want to do our show? And it's like, yeah, of course it's got to be up to a certain quality and stuff. So now you're looking at, film crews and recording stuff. It's just interesting. It's just changed the way that it's done. But she came in and she just sang it beautifully. I mean, like there's I'll tell you right now, there's nothing going on there, editing or anything like that. It's like she just sang that damn song. She could sing it, and she'd sing it. We'd do a run through and then, rehearsals and stuff. It sounds exactly the same every time she does it. It's just like she sings it perfectly. She's got better pitch than her dad did. Like, and he was pretty great. So it's she's a natural born singer, and she's only 16. It's like, she just turned 17 actually, but she's amazing. So Lauren says it was beautiful. Thanks, man. Yeah, I was really happy with the way that it ended up, looking, sounding, and everything. I was really happy with it. It's a to just put, because I hadn't met the fellow that did the strings and as far as arranging goes and help put all that together. He hadn't met myself and Lauren Gold from The Who played piano. He's my good buddy. And he played so beautifully. So, you're hearing, we all got in the room, and that's an hour after we put it together or something like that, as far as musically and stuff. And then we just played. And you can't ask for more than that, I don't think, putting people together in a room that all haven't met one another and stuff. So, yeah, pretty happy with it. All right, let's see. BRBS amp that Doug Rappaport uses. No, never tried that one. Not sure about that one. Sorry. Isn't the H9 basically a little computer that runs their plugins? Yeah, I mean, when you hear something like a H9 or any kind of digital pedal, really, if it's digital, it's on a chip, you should be able to just have that in the computer. So, it's kind of like the HX Stomp or Helix versus Helix Native. If it's ones and zeros, it's it's probably harder to put in an H9 than it is to make a plugin and run on a computer's DSP. Because yeah, it is. That's exactly right. The way you described it. Let's see. You can play a lot of different bands' material. I'm just wondering, do you have a favorite solo or one you particularly look forward to playing? Geez, I don't know. Particular solo. I mean, for me, maybe the most fun is when it's improvised and when I can just kind of, or most, musically rewarding or something. Because anytime you play a famous solo or something, there's always this weight attached to it where people expect it to be, you got the guitar nerds out there. That note wasn't quite right. So there's like always, it's not as much fun when you're getting scrutinized. It was funny, like doing that whole show of Van Halen songs with Mitch. It was like, okay, you kind of got to be like super like on your game, or that like folks are gonna so it's like there's all this weight attached to it. I don't know how fun that is. It's like, but it's always fun and rewarding doing, say, I don't know, like when I used to do the Hotel California solo, playing with Don or something. It's like there's a real, when you dive into that, the crowd, you can see there's a real euphoria on everyone's fit. Like that's, it's like this thing that they paid money to come to see. Basically, that's part of the show is that solo, and doing the harmony at the end. You always hear the, the effect music has on people. And then when you hit the last dang, 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 dang on the B minor at the end, the crowd goes, you're like, that's always fun. The power of music. Let's see. What else we got here? Neo Creambacks. That's a nice speaker. JJ Kane wants to know about Neo Creambacks. I thought they sounded really good. Yeah, if you're looking for weight reduction, you like the sound of a nice worn-in greenback. That's what they sounded like to me, like a good greenback. Like a little on the soft side, and that's not I'm saying as a bad thing. They were just not quite as maybe aggressive as a regular right out of the box standard run greenback. I'm just going to turn on my little space heater here because it's cold in here today. A little bit. Maybe not quite as efficient as a regular green. Like I would say if a regular greenback is 97 or a 98 to be efficiency, they sounded like 97 or 96, like just a little softer sounding, which is one of the reasons why we didn't end up using it for the PT15, because I thought it sounded great. The tone was great, but with the 15 watt amp, the higher efficiency speaker in our cabinet, like having a V30 and a regular greenback was just a little bit bigger sounding, a little bit more volume, which some people might not want. You might, if you're looking for like 15 watts and you're like, yeah, it's low volume, I want to be able to push the amp, get a great sound, but I want it to be, so it just depends what you want. We thought overall maybe the slightly punchier option with that low watt head might be a good thing. That's just the way we lean, but that's not to say I was really quite impressed with the Neo Creamback. So they've got many different versions. I mean, there's a Neo V type and a Neo there's a like kind of whatever the first Neo that came out was. I can't remember what that was called. But nice speakers really. And I wouldn't, it does sound actually quite like a good broken in greenback, I would say, which is cool. It's a good sound. Sorry, I guess I missed a super chat. I did not see it. Didn't pop up, I don't think. Eventide Ultra Tap versus Rose? What's better for lead playing? Well, isn't the Rose is a little bit more, it's really cool, but it's a little bit more like a vintagey kind of, I'm trying to remember the exact differences. It's hard for me sometimes in my advancing years, but it seemed to me to be a little bit more like it's obviously, it's not analog, but, and I think it was mono, isn't it? I don't want to screw this up. Go back and watch the video for it. But my memory of it was a bit more colored delay with mod and a bit more of an analog character with the Rose, whereas the other one, the Ultra Tap was surprisingly I know I did a bunch of different stuff in the video. I can't remember musically what I did with it, to be honest, but my memory of it, the takeaway was that it was quite versatile, and there was a bunch of sounds I could get out of it that I found really interesting. There's a bit more of the creative delay, ambient kind of interesting stuff, whereas the Rose a bit more like traditional. I seem to remember it was mono and like kind of a bit more of like a mod, darker character, a little bit more traditional, if you will. All right, there's another Sigs there with a super chat. Wow, I'm way back in the chat. All right. Do you see yourself doing future updates on your PT100, or are you still content? Well, we've been working on a 50 for a long time, and it will be different. The gain structure and stuff, things like that. I can't talk too much about it. I want to keep it a surprise, but I want to be able to give people if anybody has any complaints about the PT100 or the PT15 on the gain side, it seems to be if they're trying to get a lower gain plexi kind of thing going. So I want to give people the option of that, if they're playing Black Crows or if they're playing some sort of, ACDC, Black Crowes ACDC tones, or I don't know, like more like the, those types of like true sort of like the lower gain plexi. Now, I feel like on the PT100 or the PT15, I can get there by just turning the gain down, but it does, no matter what, the architecture of the structure of the gain in those amps is a gain stage in front of a plexi. Even when you bring the gain way down. I mean, so is a JCM 800, but it's got this kind of cold gain stage in it, so it doesn't have much gain. But you can think of our amps as sort of like I think a more hopped up, like modded JCM 800 style design that's tuned and stuff like that. So it's that thing as opposed to the plexi thing. So I want to do on a 15 something that's a bit more traditional plexi, and then you can add the thing too. So there's that, and we will be working on that. We are working on it. And it's just a kind of a question of when, so we will see, but, it's definitely, that's going to be different, it's going to be a different design, and, still a 3-channel, like lots of options there where you could have a clean, a mid gain, and a full gain thing going on. And, but in a 50, I want to do that with a 50, and then, eventually maybe, I don't know if, I'm just talking out loud here because this hasn't really been discussed. That'll be a separate, the PT50 will be its own thing with its own design. I would assume would continue alongside the 100, and then maybe we keep the 100 as is, or maybe it just becomes a 100-watt version of that 50, and we end up, it's a new thing. I don't know. But that's the main thing. Just a slightly different thing with the gains. I'm very happy with the clean channel. Like, the clean is exceptional on it, and it works so good with pedals. It's the best clean channel in the business, I think. So I don't really think we need to mess around much with that. And then some other things, just some voicing things and stuff, just some options. Have I tried to creambacks in the PT15? Yeah, we did. So the speakers we listened to when we did the PT15 cabinet, let me think. We listened to probably V30s on their own. We listened to greenbacks on their own, like 2 greenbacks. We listened to 2 H75s, which I also liked quite a bit, which was the speakers that come in our other version of PT212, the horizontal one that's wider with the speakers beside one another. And that sounds really good too. With those H75 speakers are pretty cool for a gigging speaker and across the board. If you need clean to quite dirty, they're a great speaker. But the one that we ended up with was just the greenback and the V30 split in the cabinet, because it was like, well, you can mic either one if you want, a slightly different sound. For example, like in this Power 50 video, here's this pedal here for those that are just joining. It's the Morello pedal. I'm making a video for it right now. I'm using into the PT100 clean channel, and then I'm coming out of the amp into the reactive load, loading the amp down, and then I'm using the 2 notes, my new signature 2 notes plug-in sounds, whatever my impulse response package, Dyne-IRs they call it. And it's my PT15 212 I'm using the V30 for this video, because I think this pedal sounds really good with the V30 style, some of that more sort of modern speaker. So and that's what I'm using. It sounds great, so that's the thing, is you can do with that cabinet, the PT15 cab, you can mic the V30 or you could mic the greenback and get the different sounds. So, and they sound really good blended, especially split, with the greenback in the top, slightly lower efficiency. Yeah. But we tried the greenback. Like I was saying earlier, the greenbacks in the 212 just they sound good. They sound like a nice relaxed greenback, slightly lower efficiency. So it wasn't quite as punchy as the regular greenback and V30 combo had a little bit more volume to it, which with a 15-watt amp, we felt like was cool to have. Yeah. Recommend any replacement tubes for a Fender hot rod? What would I go with? I mean, what are you guys using for 6L6s and stuff these days? I would say it depends what you want. You could always do 5881s in that. Those are always super reliable. I don't think they're make quite as much power as a true 6L6. You could try, look at Tube Amp Doctor and see what they've got for their 6L6 offerings, which are mostly China, I think. But they were originally doing those RCA black plate style. They had 2 different versions of, like a bit more like the late 50s, slightly. I'm not a 6L6 like expert, but they had an RCA black plate that's a little bit more like the typical like 60s, like really like the creme de la creme of 6L6s, So there was a version of that from Tube Amp Doctor that you'll find, and then also a little bit more like a 50s, slightly, a bit more like a 5881, I think, which is when I say Sovtech 5881, that's the tube that has it's super reliable. It's been used, everybody from Soldano to everybody on the sun for the last 25 years or so has used that tube consistently, and it's a consistent tube. It's a good sounding tube, so that's always a good way to go. I think the JJ 6L6s are fairly well regarded. I think that's what I've got in my basement, my old basement right now. Bent Tom says Sovtech 5881 for me. Yeah, I think the 5881 is, I know Dave Friedman's a really big fan of it. They're just reliable. They, yeah. Dave says this man has already honored me being French with the creme de la creme. Well, the French. I love the French. I love France. I miss France. It's got a certain je ne sais quoi. I was hoping to go there, actually, after the Classic Rock Show tour, just take a few days off and go there before I come back home. And then I kind of organized a ticket for that. And then, they're now saying that you can't go from UK to France unless you have a very good reason because of everything that's going on. Who knows? That may change in January, or I don't know. So we'll leave it open-ended, but I hope I can make it there. It's a shame to come all the way over and not, to just work and then go all the way home, especially when I haven't been anywhere in 2 years. I would love to be able to make it down to, I miss France because I spent so much time there. So, that's a place I feel like I could live. It's a great country. France, the best food in the world. I mean, it's such a wonderful country. It's one of the only places I've been. I guess Japan, because it's so long, is like this, but where you really can, other than the United States and I guess Canada, like these huge countries, Russia, places like this. But the places that I've been, you can't really, you don't get the change in, foliage, the weather and everything. France, you can go from the north and it's freezing cold and a certain thing down to Nice, and it's like 68 degrees and really beautiful out. It's a little like, going from, I don't know, like, Oregon to, all the way down to LA, or Washington State all the way down to LA or San Diego. The weather changes, everything changes, either Northern California or Southern California. So France is one of the only countries I've been to where that, I mean, I know there's others, but where that really is, so that it's big enough that I'm saying that, you've got that kind of variety. You can get on the TGV, and they've got this great train. So you get on the TGV and blast down there, in 6 hours, you're in a completely different zone. Everything looks different. It's awesome. But I don't know. I like that about it. And that made me feel like this is this country's big enough that, you're living in the United States or something, and moving to a small country. I always just felt maybe you'd feel like, I don't know, like a little bit of, I don't know why that would be a thing. I mean, you can go all over Europe freely, but I just enjoyed that about France. Blah, blah, blah. What else we got here? I was watching a Chris Cornell music video with Chester Bennington and young Pete shredding on, I don't know, I wasn't that young. Now I'm just really old. No. Anyway. Yeah, Chester would come out on that tour and sing with us. It was their tour. It was a Linkin Park Project Revolution festival. So it was an eclectic mix of folks with us and Busta Rhymes and 10 Years and all these different bands that were out on tour. Of course, Linkin Park would headline, and we were direct support for Linkin Park. So we would play right before them. And the first time the crowd, is mostly a Linkin Park crowd, really, I think. And the first time the crowd would see Chester every night was when he would come out and sing Hunger Strike with Chris. So everybody would go nuts when he'd come on stage, and then they'd do that song. And I think it was about 38 shows we did on that tour. So yeah, he came out and jammed with us 38 times on that tune. And it was always really fun. Good memories and there's some nice videos of those performances out there. Yeah. So we got Ben Coombs in the house, of course. Thanks for being here, Ben. I see Tone Talk. What's up, Mark? Let's see. What else? I'd love to try some good NOS EL34s in my BE. I would recommend the Siemens RFT. Available for a pretty reasonable price, and boy, do they ever sound good. You're not really that far off with the EH from that sound. The EH EL34 is a really good, and I liked a lot of the other ones in that EL34 little shootout that I did with Dave Friedman. Some of the other ones that I remember liking were the Tongue Souls, sounded really good to me. The Mollards sound good. The JJs sounded quite good. They were different and had their own thing. But I thought the EH were really good and quite close to the Siemens, although the Siemens had something magic in the mids where they just sound really like just rich in a good way. Mollards were cool and stuff too, and very rich in their own way, but I would be just fine living. And truth be told, I have lots of those Siemens around for like I've got them in my Marshall 50 now. And I have at least another, I don't know, at least another 4 pairs lying around that are matched, I think, so that I could, so I got a few. I'm not going to put them in 100 watt, but for 50 watts, I got some match pairs around I can use. If I go 100 watt, I'll just use the EHs. Yeah. Was about to say. Says Mike, Oregon has a similar climate to France. Yeah, Oregon, California. Nice kind of looks like California to me. I don't know longitude, latitude exactly where France lies compared to California, but maybe Spain's a little more like California. But when you go, Nice is really beautiful, and it reminds me of parts of California for sure. The climate and the ocean and the mountains and everything. It's beautiful there. What a great place. Yeah. Come over to Ireland. We'll show you 4 seasons in one day, every day. Yeah. It's a great place. I love Ireland. Bummer we're not playing there, actually. I'd love to go there with the Classic Rock Show because, I don't know, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. All right. What else we got here? Yeah. Love France. Got to live there for a few years. They cherish the small things in life. Yeah, that's, really appreciating good food, simple, things like, I guess, family, hanging out with, I mean, any place where you can go and there's these great cafes where you can hang out and have a glass of wine or a bite or whatever and sit outside and appreciate I can slow down. It's nice that way there. They don't work too hard, but they're, they're great at what they do, but they don't work too hard. And I say that in a good way, yeah, they, it's like, what's life for, right? So the French appreciate, I think, the quality of life over just beating yourself to death to, make money or whatever. How about that new Cinvertech paddle video? Yeah, it's coming. I know. It's, this week. I got to get it done. I got a lot to do this week before. I better do that tomorrow. That one. I'm going to finish the Power 50 video, and then that's my next one. It's sitting right here. Here it is. Right here on my desk. So it's a lot. I have to get all my guitars ready to go. I mean, I'm assuming we're moving ahead with everything this week with the me going on the road and all that. So I got to get a list of guitars, serial numbers, approximate weights, get everything packaged up, get everything ready to go. There's a lot to do with that. And I'm gonna visit family and stuff for Christmas. So it's like there's a ton of stuff to do, and then I come back. I'm here for 4 days, and then I'm supposed to go to the UK. So, boy, oh boy, a lot to do this week. In addition to the thing about the videos, like for this pedal and stuff, I always got to remind myself I don't have to finish an edit. I've got to get the video recorded and get it on a hard drive, and then I can take it with me and actually make it on a laptop. So maybe that's what I'll aim to do, is get the body of the video done, put it on a laptop, and then I can actually edit it on the plane or when I'm, having a little downtime in Canada. There won't be a lot of downtime, but a few hours here and there, and then I can put it together. Anyways, you're hearing the internal thoughts of my brain right now. Yeah. Ben says, I'm not expecting a demo of my pedal until after you're back from tour. Yeah, there's just no way, dude. I've got too many things sitting here. It's tough. But let's see. Nice you said that about France. Peeps, best not to come to Germany. I like Germany too. I've had a lot of fun there. I mean, hey, going to the GitCon at the Warwick factory. God, that place is like, you're 2 kilometers from the Czech border when you're there, and it looks like Narnia, man. I mean, it's like, that's a beautiful part of the world. I know a lot of people don't live there because there's not a lot going on, and folks move to the big cities and stuff for opportunities. It's like small towns there in that part of, East Germany, Far East Germany, and really close to Czech Republic. But boy, is it beautiful, and I enjoyed it there too. The hotel that we would stay at when we were going to the GitCon thing with Warwick, it was like a spa that had these hot pools, kind of, I don't know if it's hot springs, but they had these hot pools, and you'd go there and float around, salt pools and stuff like that. And that was, I don't know, man, that was pretty relaxing. It was just me and a bunch of senior citizens hanging out in these pools, floating around, with a neck pillow and you're like jets and stuff. You're like, yeah, this is pretty good. I can get used to this, at least for a week or two a year. What do I think about the Neve RNDI direct box? So that's a direct box that can function as a instrument level direct. And then I think it can also function as a line out box on a speaker output from an amp to get signal into, say, your DAW or something, to where you could add some speaker simulation. That's all I know about it. I've never tried one beyond that. I have talked to there used to be a fellow at Neve that because they were affiliated with SE as well, SE Electronics, and the SE VR1 microphone, ribbon microphone, et cetera, et cetera. So he was a rep for them, and he was like, maybe we should do something with the direct box. And he just never ended up getting it to me. We never ended up connecting on it. So that's all I know about that thing. But I'm sure it's high quality and, pretty cool. Oh, wow. Pedro says he saw me with Draco Rosa a long time ago. That's cool. I wonder what show it was. Was it one of the theater shows, 2005, or maybe the we play? I think we did a couple arena shows there. At the big arena in San Juan. We filmed an acoustic DVD there. Right after the hurricane. That was wild. That was a crazy week. Flew there, had a clear day. The next day there was a hurricane, knocked out power to the island for the next 4 or 5 days, which we spent in the hotel, just kind of like, it was really weird. I was up like 10 flights of stairs. I was on the 10th floor and I had to walk up and down, the 10 flights of stairs every time I went to and from my room. There was no elevators. There was no real power to speak of. So the room was dark all the time at night. There's emergency lighting in the hallways and stuff. There was nowhere to go. It was a Category 3 hurricane, and it wasn't like severe damage like we saw with the big one that was there a couple of years ago. But it was enough that it knocked out power for 4 or 5 days. It was pretty severe. The day we would go to rehearse for that concert, assuming we were like hoping it was going to go ahead because there's no power, so it wouldn't have gone ahead if there wasn't any power. We were just hoping the power was going to come on. We went to rehearse and they had a gas generator outside the rehearsal studio to power like the console and our monitors and stuff. So we rehearsed for 4 days or something like that in that fashion. Went back to the weird, scene at the hotel where it was like no power, only emergency lighting and stuff. And then on the last day, the morning of the show, the power came on. And it was an arena show. We had like 25,000 people there. So literally went to the venue, plugged in, did the show, had this kind of triumphant feel because everybody was like partying together. It's like, yeah, power's back on, let's go. And I went back to the hotel after the show, which there was a casino in and stuff. And it was like a beachfront, kind of hotel scene. And the casino was like going off and like everybody was partying. And it was like the place had lit up, and it had been like super locked down for like a week with nothing going on. So it was like kind of a triumphant end to the whole thing. It was a cool memory. Strange week. Anyways, Draco Rosa, great artist that was 2003, 4 into 2005 that I played with him. Very simple question. Does the HX Stomp still hold its own against the Quad Cortex? Well, okay, so you're saying I had to go with a more affordable choice. Yeah, it is the more affordable choice that does a ton of different things. It's a great thing to have, man. The HX Stomp, no matter what, is a great, I would say that many of the effects, if you're using it for effects, many of the effects are going to be just great. I mean, I love the kind of vintage chorus in the 70s chorus, whatever they call it, in the HX Stomp. The delays are those Line 6 delays that are really, really cool. The amp models, there's some really good ones in the HX Stomp. I am a fan of replacing the cab sims, or using IRs in the HX Stomp. Use some Celestion ones or York or whatever you want to throw in there. And then it really ups the game of the box, I think, quite a bit. And like that, the Placator is my favorite dirty kind of Marshall-y amp sim. The Texas, whatever, the Lone Star Channel 1, that's the one I always recommend for a clean Fender-y thing. That sounds really good to me. That with some nice IRs, you got a terrific sound. The Quad Cortex is really great. I mean, in my opinion, it just sounds really good to me. So I'm looking at it right now. Looking at it. There it is. And I'm actually using it more and more. I'm actually taking it to use with Classic Rock Show. Not as my main thing, but what I'm doing with it this time around is I'm running it on the output of the PT-15. So the line out of the PT-15, I'm going to the Quad Cortex, then it comes stereo out to the house and to the monitors. And so you've essentially got the amp loaded down, then going into that, I'm adding some stereo effects in the Quad Cortex on certain things, just where it's, and it's really cool for some of the songs that we're doing. It's nice. And then I figure that ends up becoming my backup too, which I kind of have to set up today. I kind of got to I got a little bit of work to do on that. I could always do it once I'm over there too, in the UK, but I might try and do a little bit of that work today. But what I'm thinking is, let's say my pedal board went down or my amp rig went down or something like that, amp, who knows, something happens. As long as I got that Quad Cortex, it's at the end of the chain and it's plugged stereo into the PA. Just plug my guitar right into it. And now I've got that working, right? It becomes, you know, all I have to do is change to a preset where there's an amp model active. So that's my thinking. It's a good device. Let's see. Alex says he was listening to some isolated Malcolm tracks. Makes me want to get a Gretsch G5 222. Who's your favorite rhythm player? I mean, Malcolm's right up there. Eddie Van Halen. Rhythm guitars. If you want to hear, I was showing somebody this week. If you want to hear an amazing rhythm guitar track, there's the isolated track from Beautiful Girls on YouTube. Go listen to that and listen to that rhythm guitar playing. Listen to the pulse and how he clips things off and his dynamics and stuff like that. That is world-class rhythm guitar playing to me. It's so unique, his style and everything. So Eddie's right. You know, Eddie in that period of, you know, 1978 to, I mean, pretty much all the way through the 80s into the 90s, you know, it's just that rhythm guitar playing was like pretty devastatingly good, you know. So have you decided which delay you're taking to the UK? I'm taking my Timeline, Strymon. It's on the board now. I made a few sounds. Sounds great. Just simplifying my whole delay scene as far as what's in the effect loop of my amp. You know, what I've kind of done is I've made like a digital delay sound. I've made an analog delay sound. I've made a tape delay sound. And if I need a certain one of those for a song, I just take one of those presets that I made of those three I just said, and then I copy it to a new memory location, make the time, and tweak it a little bit. But I'm using those basic sounds, you know, those basic, here's my digital, here's my analog, here's my tape. And you know, and that's kind of made it really easy. Just thinking of it that way, 3 little presets. And then if I need to tweak them a little bit, I'll make another version of that preset and send the MIDI to send to that preset for that song. Yeah. Oh, the other video I put out this week, I should mention, because you guys are talking about Eddie, is we put up the classic rock, not classic rock show, the Mitch Malloy's Van Halen Experience. Somebody Get Me a Doctor video is on my YouTube if you want to check it out. We rocked that song, I think. Yes, we did. Damn it. That's a good one. You better call up the doctor, feeling no pain. Overloading, baby, down the drain. Somebody get me a doctor. The quad is pretty cool from what I've seen and heard. I already own a Kemper, but I use pedals, especially for overdrive. The ability to capture pedals is pretty cool. Yes. Agreed. I actually haven't tried that, capturing a pedal. I've only done amps. But I've done both direct amp captures as well as with the speaker and everything. And it's pretty fun. A couple super chats here. Andre, what's happening? We got 350 people online. Do you record the DI signals as well when tracking guitars? No, I don't generally do that. I commit. I just commit. Like the Beatles would have. Just find a good sound and then commit. Sometimes I will record, of course, via a load box. Like, for example, I'm doing the video for, if you haven't seen it, here it is once again from the MXR. Excuse me, I'm burping. The Power 50 pedal from Tom Morello and MXR. As I say in the video, Tom Morello and I have something in common. We both played in bands with the same vocalist, but big difference. I had to learn his licks and he never had to learn mine. Anyways, the video for that, I'm coming out of the Sir load box into Logic, and then I'm adding the 2 notes plugin on the channel to do speaker simulation. So I could switch up the cab sound later if I'm doing, and I do things that way sometimes. On Pete Thorn 2, my last record, I did a lot of tracks like that, and I did end up actually in the mix sometimes switching the cab sim sound when I'd go back and listen and be like, I want to change this one up. You know, once I went to mixing. And it's kind of cool, but I really do like, to be honest, committing. You know, the nature of recording using the IRs on the channel in a plugin like the 2 notes plugin just is like, well, you can change it if you want to. So the option's there. It's like you're not printing the sound. But there's something about printing that sound and just being like, it's one less thing to worry about when you go to mix. The philosophy of the great old mix engineers, you know, was really, I think, get the sound at the source. And you could really pull up the faders to like 0 dB or whatever, and it kind of sounded mixed. If the way people used to record, it was really kind of like that. It was like you know, just great sounds at the right level, hitting tape or whatever. And it was like, really well recorded stuff, and it wasn't like there was like, well, we'll record a DI and then we can do stuff with it later, or, we'll fix it in the mix, or those kinds of, those philosophies where like you got the sound later. No, you got the sound first, and printed it. It was out of necessity. I mean, many times they were collapsing tracks. So when they were only using 4 tracks and things, they were like submixing a vocal and a guitar to one track. It was like that stuff had to be just right, mixed at the right level, because that guitar solo was going to come up too at the same level if you pulled up the vocal fader, or whatever, rhythm guitar or whatever happened to be on rhythm guitars and shaker or something on one track together. Drums and bass mixed together. So things had to be done right. And I like that kind of commitment. You when you think about the Beatles and the amount of output, like, putting out a record every year, or sometimes 2 within a year or more, it's like certain times they probably had like 3 out within 12 months or something. I'm not sure if that ever happened, but maybe it did. I could ask Brian Kehoe, he would know that. But yeah, putting out the amount of, that volume of stuff, it was like they just got down to work, did it, and then it was done. And nobody spent like months, recording records back then. It was probably done over the span of, if you spent a couple months on a record, that was probably a really long time. When we look at that Get Back record, I mean, you watch them doing that, working things out in the studio, and maybe at times it even seems tedious or like they're struggling, but we got to remember it was really only 3 or 4 weeks, right? Like, and it was done, from the time they sat down they were writing the songs sometimes at night and coming in with them. And then boom, that project is done. They go in, they, recorded it over the span of just a few days, really. And stuff was probably getting mixed then in the evening by Glenn or whatever, and there it is, I mean, I guess when we think about Let It Be, there's the whole, we think about the Beatles and the Phil Spector thing and stuff, like we got to take that into account too. But you know what I'm saying? They recorded a lot of records like really, really quickly, and then they came out. So that's the way they kind of did things back then. So that kind of commitment, getting things done, I like that. When I see Joe Bonamassa, oh sorry, John, I didn't get your super chat there. I changed off of it. Sorry. I'll just finish my thought. When I see Joe Bonamassa, he seems to go in. I mean, he's blues, playing things live a lot, going for live takes. He seems to go in and spend just a few days making his records. You'll see him like starting recording, and then like feels like barely any time goes by, and you'll see another Instagram post, finished up today, and that's like a few days later. I like that. Get it done. John says, just picked up a Revival Drive compact, unbelievably good. Can I use it as a backup for live? I'd be running my Chapter X, so I'm assuming I could use the IRs in that. Sure. Yeah, you could go, I mean, you can run the Revival Drive kind of in that direct mode, where it's set, the output is set to be sort of like it's a preamp as opposed to a pedal in front of an amp, and go right into Chapter X. Absolutely. And just run that line out to the, tweak it in the Chapter X and get the sound you want or whatever with the mics, maybe adding a little tweaking, I think you can even add reverb and stuff, right? Send that out to a PA. There's your sound, man. Good backup for sure. Did you record the DI signals as well when? Oh, didn't I do that already? Similar question. I don't record DI signals. Yeah, I've only worked with a few producers that have done that, where they take a DI and track it, and they like to do that, and in case they want to reamp later. EVH's rhythm guitar seems pretty underrated. The thing is, it's hard to separate his. Okay, like take a track like Girl Gone Bad. It's like, where's, is it rhythm guitar? Is it lead guitar? It's a little like Jimi Hendrix, right? There's the tapping at the beginning with the arpeggios, but it's very rhythmic. It's not lead. It's like a melodic, the way he's playing the guitar. And then when he gets into the like the rhythm and the way he's interacting with Alex is like, it's not to me. I've never heard anybody do that before. That kind of, you know, it's just one voice, like whether it's rhythm down, 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 and I'm getting down, like that's rhythm guitar playing, and it's just friggin' ferocious rhythm guitar playing. It's amazing. Dance Night Away for sure, you know, but I can't really separate with his playing the rhythm from the lead because it's all one voice to me. And when I think about Beautiful Girls or something, that's really like a, you know, but pretty much any song. I mean, like he was just an amazing rhythm guitar player. You know, there's a lot of Billy Gibbons, a lot of Pete Townsend to me in his playing, and maybe even like, you know, like Clapton, like Crossroads or something. And when he was clipping notes and then, you know, kind of all that shit, you know, that he was doing. Eddie kind of incorporated all that stuff and then made his own supercharged rock rhythm guitar / you know, then the lead thing, you know. Amazing. Let's see. What else we got? Did I miss any? Yeah, there's a little super chat I missed there. Sean Tubbs and Mateus Asado are here right now. Will you three plan a G3 tour? I actually want to see. That'd be fun. You know, I kind of like, I just, when it comes to, I don't know. I mean, the G3 or the guitar sort of niche tours, I mean, I'm more of the mind, like I want to see more great songs with singers, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'll do another instrumental album and stuff, but wouldn't it be awesome if, you know, I'd love to see like Mateus in a band that was like friggin' Toto or something, you know, like that style of where it's a bunch of amazing musicians just making great music. You know, getting down to, you know what I mean? Like the Neil and Journey, or like the different guitar players over the years that have been so, I don't know, more than the G3 thing, you know, like the guitar niche. Gotta love guitar, obviously, but I had what I did this week with Tony, you know, the Fallon thing, playing acoustic. It's funny because a couple of people are like, can't hear the guitar, turn it up in the mix. It's like, it's actually really good in the mix. It's perfect. And I really enjoyed that role. That's the role I enjoy the most, I think, being a supportive of a singer. Just a great overall musical presentation. So nothing against, you know, nothing against instrumental guitar, but, you know, I'd love to see, because Mateus is a really musical guitar player. He's a great rhythm guitar player too. Sean is an amazing guitar player, and Sean has backed up many great, you know, he's played with Carrie Underwood and stuff, right? He's worked with many singers over the years, and yeah, that kind of thing. Okay. On your Fender EVH Halen red one stripes guitar, did you modify it? I didn't really modify it. I mean, it's got a trim stopper on it. That's it. I screwed one of those things into the back so that the block hits the trim stop and then the bridge stays parallel with the body. It's the only thing I did to it. It's a fun guitar, man. Otherwise, I mean, I have no complaints. Really fun. And, you know, if you're going to play Van Halen, pick that up and rock it. Yeah. Let's see. You ever try the Evertune bridge? I have. Thoughts on it? It's cool. It's just a commitment. The fella there has tried to get me to make a video, and I'd love to do that, but it's just like, I don't actually want to put one of those on a guitar of mine that I have already necessarily, you know? So I'd love to get a guitar that's made with one already, just to, like, you know, because it's a massive modification. You're permanently altering the instrument, so it would make sense to me to have a guitar made, or get one guitar built, or have one where it's already part of the package, kind of thing, and then sort of demonstrate that. And I do find it a cool thing, though. I think it's the kind of thing, I don't know if I would have it on like all my guitar. Maybe there's players out there it's like, this is my deal, but I change tunings all the time, like where I'm like drop D, or oh, I need to put this in E flat now, you know, and then I just like do it for recordings or whatever. So to just have one guitar that I knew, maybe in two different tunings with two Evertunes or something, you know, two guitars with one in E, one in E flat, one in E, one in E flat, one in drop D or something. Then you need one in drop C sharp too. See where I'm going with this? Yeah. Because you can't, that's the thing, is you can't really change. You're going to have to reset up the whole thing. It's a big ordeal if you're going to change the tuning on it. It's a must with bass, DI and mic. Yeah, somebody was asking about DIing. Yeah, it's very common to take a DI with bass and then an amp signal. And these days, of course, you can just take a DI and then add a plug-in too later, because you can use the DI track to do the, with a plug-in. And that's a much more common, but that's because people use the DI sound in the mix a lot. I don't think it's because people want to change the bass sound later, right? So it's different. The DI is a fundamental kind of, for many years, folks like to have a direct bass signal and an amp signal blended together in the mix. You don't see too many guitar tones that are a DI signal blended with an amp signal. Sure, there's some examples. Pink Floyd, I can think of, some examples where that's but it's rare. There's the rare occurrences where I think DI guitar used to be more of a, like in the 70s, it was a thing that people actually, like with the intention of actually using the DI signal, and even like Eddie Van Halen on, I always come back to Van Halen, don't I? One trick pony, one track mind. No, I just love Van Halen, so I can think of so many examples with him. But Finish What You Started, that's a DI, right? Reeling in the Years by Steely Dan, that's a DI with fuzz, right? Isn't it? The solo, Elliot Randall, right? These are things that people used to do more, those DI. Now it's like, it's sort of more rare that you hear these, or with, clean sounds and stuff in the 70s, funk sounds. People used to use DIs a lot. Yeah. Okay. A couple super chats here. Let's check them out. Have you heard or played a Dr. Z EMS amp? I have not. I've only played a few Dr. Z's. The Route 66, I think. They have them at least they used to. If they're still the dealer, I'm not sure. But True Tone Music in LA was a Dr. Z dealer, and I'd play them sometimes. They're pretty cool, like simple circuits, I just always like, there's only so many hours in the day. These two were my Top Hat and Divided by 13. Before I met John Suhr, it was like those were my boutique amps, that I would use. And Dr. Z kind of came out around the same, right? 90s, 2000, Top Hat, Divided by 13, they were coming out. It was like, and Comet, of course. I've got my Comet down there, which is just out of view. Started using those around 2006. And the Dr. Z was just one that I never, I'd love to have one of those, or get one to try, one of those little Z-Rec amps. That seems really cool to me. How are you liking your Gemino? So the Gemino is great. I haven't used it very much recently, but, I did. It was heavily modded right after I got it. Haha. I had Dave Friedman do, basically it's Jose mods. It's got Jose kitchen sink scene going on with the gain boost and the Zeners and two masters and all that stuff. So, so it's not quite in its original form anymore, but it does sound great. Really good. Great seeing you with Tony on Fallon. Thank you. Found both CC Custom First Series Olive and Black 335s at True Tone yesterday and bought both. Wow. That's amazing. Congratulations on your new axes. You shouldn't be spending money on super chats, but I do appreciate it. And you're absolutely right. Chris doesn't get the guitar credit he deserves. Riff Writing Monster. Yeah, he was really self-deprecating about his guitar playing too. Anytime he spoke to me, he'd be like, "Well, you're a real guitar player." I just I'd be like, "Dude, what are you talking about? Like you're," and he used to work hard on his guitar playing. When he started doing the acoustic thing more in the playing tours, solo tours and stuff, he really worked hard to work up cool acoustic stuff. And I would liked his guitar playing a lot. I thought he was a really cool guitar player. And obviously as a writing tool, come on, he wrote such cool stuff. That's what really matters, right? More than being some technical whittly genius, using it as a tool to get all the great music out that he did. Very cool. Yeah. Let's see. What else we got here? Here's a fella that says, my brother used to see Van Halen in Pasadena before they got big. Michael Anthony is in my aunt's yearbook from Arcadia High. That's awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of folks in the kind of San Gabriel Valley scene. You know, when I first came to LA around 90, and then I started spending time out that way, I would meet a lot of people that weren't that much older than me, but, you know, maybe 10 years or more, a little bit. But they'd be like, yeah, man, I saw Van Halen in 1976 at, like, you know, whatever, like party at, you know, in Arcadia or in, you know, Pasadena or San Marino or, you know, these towns and, you know, San Gabriel Valley and stuff. This is where I live now, but there's a lot of folks with stories about the, you know, there's just a lot of Van Halen history out there. It's really cool. It's kind of like going to Liverpool when you go and you walk around town. And there's, you know, go down to where the cavern is now, the new cavern, which is, you know, 20 meters or something from where the old one was. But, and, you know, you'll go to some pub and there'll be a plaque on the door, or inside, you know, the Beatles used to sit in this booth, you know, in a pub right down the street or something. I love all that stuff. It's cool. Well, Pasadena is a little bit like that. With Van Halen, I guess, you know, where there's like, you know, you heard Dave telling the story when he did his, when, you know, when he was mentioning these shows coming up were maybe going to be his last gigs, you know, and he was talking about the Denny's or something in Pasadena, which I think is, you know, is still there, or these different places where they used to go hang out. There's a theater downtown, like an old town Pasadena, where I think they used to rehearse, and you know, just kind of like, yeah, folks have stories about it around there. There's a house, you know, where there was this legendary party, like in Pasadena, that folks talk about, on the corner of like Huntington and something else. But yeah, you know, it's neat to hear all those stories, and it makes us wish we were around, you know. I got to go to Gazzari's once before it closed. I'm that old that I was in the original Gazzari's once before it came Billboard Live and the Key Club and all that. And that was neat because that's like kind of Van Halen hallowed ground or whatever. Why does the guitar community never seem to give Sponge love for their godly guitar tones? Fields has some of the sweetest. I don't know. I don't know that much about that band, to tell you the truth. So I'm ignorant to it. Yeah. For a minute I thought you meant Spoon, so that's how ignorant I am. Which is a another great band. I love that band. They're from Texas, I think, right? God, they're cool. Such cool songs. Oh, and yeah. Anyway, M. Karras, congratulations on your guitars there. Tell us what you think of them. Kind of different with their you know, what are the pickups? Why am I having a brain fart right now? Are they TV Jones, or are they like, who makes the pickups that they put in those? They probably are, right? The more like the Gretsch style Filtertrons. That's what I'm thinking. I remember Chris showing me, man, I went to, when he had the original prototypes for those. I went to his house and we were sitting in his studio, I mean, it's really like a converted bedroom, you know. We were sitting there passing the guitars back and forth, and he was showing me. I was like, wow, these are cool, big necks and stuff. And you know, he liked guitars with big V's. And one of his favorite guitars is he's got one of those Neil Young. He had one of those Neil Young Les Pauls, you know, the old black, and he played that a lot too with the Bigsby and kind of heavy. You know, he liked Les Pauls and 335s and guitars with big Bigsbys and stuff. So, what are the best settings on a tube screamer to boost for a solo setting? I really like to just crank that level. That's the main thing. And the tone control below half usually. Sometimes could be anywhere from all the way off to, you know, halfway. And the drive up at maybe 9 o'clock, you know, or maybe down. Just depends on how much that little bit of tube screamer grit you want to put in there. But really, they don't have a ton of output. So it's like you kind of need to boost the level up above 2 o'clock at least. To me, I think for unity gain, and then, you know, boost that up, get that up there so you're pushing the amp, and then just bring the drive up a little bit, to me. So what is a balanced transformer DI out? It just means it's a low impedance output, and that the DI uses a transformer, I guess, to go from high to low impedance. and it'll drive a long signal line then without as much interference, and you don't get any high-end loss and all that. If you're trying to get a strong, DI signal. What is DI? Direct injection, I think, is what it is, right? Isn't that what DI stands for? I always thought. When you're taking a DI is somebody saying Led Zeppelin was DI for some guitar sounds. Yeah, that's right. Jimmy did some DI sounds. That's right. Corey Wong often uses straight DI. I guess that's true, but he's kind of in that, he's getting back to a little bit of that 70s funky, DI is direct input. Yeah, direct input, direct. Yeah, I think it's direct input. That's right. I don't know. It's one of those things I haven't thought about for a long time. Direct input, not direct injection. Direct input. It's essentially when you're taking a high impedance signal from the guitar and then you're converting it to a low impedance signal, and which will drive a long signal line, and you get a good, true, strong, direct representation of what the instrument sounds like, right? You can think of DI as that. It gets kind of muddled because it's like people think about DI outputs on like an amp head on the back. Well, it's not really like you've now got the amplifier in the equation and stuff. So but people will kind of conflate like, the two different things, right? Like direct out of the instrument and anyways. Okay, stuck in my bedroom. Oh, that's too bad. Stuck in my bedroom with COVID this week and had a remote session. I used my new Richard Forrest Gretsch and your PT100 plug-in on almost everything. Thanks for putting your name on quality products. Thanks, man. I'm glad you like the plug-in. I love the plug-in too. And I'm sorry that you're stuck, but are you getting over it? Is it almost how you feeling? Tell us how you're doing. Tell us your experience. I'm interested from folks speaking from experience. I have a Buddha 30. I've had AC30s, Marshall 1500 watt amps, but the Buddha is incredibly loud. That's with the Dr. Z brake on full. That sounds odd. I mean, that doesn't sound right. I mean, if you're using the Dr. Z, you should be able to take it all the way down to line level, right? I'm not sure. Tell us more about your setup. Excuse me, I'm belching. Saw Van Halen at Whiskey several times in 76, 77, 50 to 80 people. That is so cool, Rory. Tell us about what they did, what they played, what happened. Tell us the details. Tell us about Eddie's guitars. What was he playing in 76 and 77? Anything you can remember. We want to know. We want to know the details. Stephen Percy was longtime buds with EVH. I think he would be a great guest. Was he? I didn't know that. I hadn't heard that. Let's see here. I watched Chris's rig rundown and he knew his shit about guitars. Yeah. I mean, he was a gear and guitar and recording aficionado. He knew a lot about setting up sounds and about recording. And right before he passed away, I had got him set up with a Sur reactive load, and he had a Fender amp at home that he was using a lot for home stuff. And he had a PT100 as well. And we got him set up. I got him set up with a whole selection of IRs and the Mellow Muse IR loader. That's what I was using back then. And he was so stoked. I remember him sending me an email the morning after he got it, and he was tracking something. He plugged the Fender in and pulled up an IR on a track, and he was tracking parts, and he was like, "This is fucking amazing." He was so into it. I got this great email. Where he was just like really jazzed on being able to get those tones in his little home studio without having and he was really into all this stuff, drum software. And I mean, we said, that's how we kind of, stayed in touch a lot, was like gabbing about like recording stuff and guitar tones. And, I'd make because I was using Steven Slate drums primarily back then, and I would make like kit presets and then send them to him. I remember making one in particular where I went and listened to Super Unknown like a lot, and I was like trying to dial in the drum sounds to sound like that, the drums off that record, and get a preset that was like close. because he was writing songs for Soundgarden. He was like, he wanted to, he's like, I don't want to spend a ton of time programming drums, but I just want some cool, like just so I can present my ideas to the group or whatever. And so I would make him like a kit template preset and send it to him, and stuff like that. It was fun. Frog Leap. Somebody's saying that Frog Leap is here. B. Scott says Frog Leap is here. Where's my buddy Leo? Miss you, dude. When do we get to hang again? I want to hang out. You guys need another guitar player? I'll come play in your band. Come on, let's do it. We can have 3 or 4 guitar players. Me and Rabia. It'll be fun. All right, I'm going down to the bottom of the chat. What do we got here? The Dr. Z EMS is basically a hand-wired 50-watt Marshall with JTM, JMP, and JCM modes. That's cool. I didn't know that. Sounds like a cool amp that I would love to hear and try. For sure. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you guys all for the super chats. I appreciate it. We got 372 people online. As always, it picks up steam towards the end. Maybe I should start later. I should start at noon. How would you release music these days if you aren't an established musician? Same way everybody is, really, which is just to say, my number one thing is that I don't know if the the album format really makes a hell of a lot of sense anymore. It always seems like people put out records and then they disappear a week later, or not disappear, but it's just like you get this initial, because folks have a short attention span. They're used to seeing a video on Instagram or on YouTube or something. They watch it and then they're on to the next. So if you put out a whole album like that, only, if you've got diehard fans, that's one thing. But if you've got you're trying to get people interested in your stuff, here's a record from so-and-so, to just get them to listen to the whole thing is like a difficult thing, especially if you're not established. So I think that the way to go, this is just my opinion, but I think the thing to do is honestly release singles one at a time, maybe every 2 weeks, every month, something like that. And when I say release, I mean, I guess, put it out on Spotify, Apple Music, and all the streaming platforms. Sell it as an MP3 on Amazon Music and everything else that you can do that on, and maybe make a little video or something that you can share to YouTube and to Instagram and TikTok or whatever you do, all the stuff you do, Facebook, and do that maybe once a month, and then you're out there all the time. Right. And if you did that 9 or 10 times, you'd have 9 or 10 songs over the course of a year where you're constantly putting your thing out there. It's a little bit easier to think about putting out a song with a video and a completed song mixed and everything with a video and some promo and stuff like once a month, rather than 10 or 12 songs as an album, where you got to put all this time into a project and then just put it all out in one. I just don't know that it makes sense anymore. It seems to make more sense to do like and then what about if you do that over the course of 10 or 12 months, right? A bunch of singles, and then you maybe have another couple more songs in the can. You bundle it all as an album then, and then say, here, I'm releasing the album. Maybe you do it on vinyl or on something special, on CD, something, make it special, bundle those 8 or 9 or 10 tracks that you've put out with 1 or 2 more, maybe live recordings or who knows what, with live videos or something. Bundle it all, sell it on vinyl, sell it as something. And now you've been out there for a year, always constantly staying in the public, in people's faces all the time. You know what I mean? With a new release throughout the year, give them something special at the end. I think it's a better way to do it. That's how I would do it. You're building your social media the whole time, building your, so you can get a couple new fans or a few new fans or 20 new fans or 45 new fans with every release or whatever. You just build your thing slowly, right? So that's what I think. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. A kit template drum preset that sounded like Soundgarden. Come on, give us that link. Make your own. I spent like maybe a few hours on it. You can do it. I just did it within Stephen Slade drums. There's no extra compression, or I just found drum samples I liked and stuff and made them a kit or whatever. And then, you know, I have a whole like folder or whatever called Chris drum presets or something, you know, it's in my, it's like a template, you know, Logic. I saved it as a Logic template. That's what I did. Not within Stephen Slade drums. I saved it as a Logic template. Then he had Stephen Slade drums too. So I could send him the template. He put it in his templates folder and then it would pop up. You know, when you start a new project in Logic, you can click on a template and it'll open up. And it was like a preset where he could start from to write and stuff. So, how can you write songs when there are already 10 billion zillion songs? I don't think about any of that. I just plug in and I start to play a riff or something. And then I think about the drums right away and I can kind of start to hear how the whole thing sounds in my head or whatever. And then I just lay it down. Or I mess around, you know, I beat it up. Some of the best things on songwriting, the best, like the Beatles documentary is brilliant for songwriting. That's how you write songs. The way that McCartney is writing them, you know, where he's trying things and trying and trying, and he's always playing, you're hearing him, and he doesn't stop, you know, he just keeps going at it. And it's a very similar thing to what, if you watch the Eagles documentary, when Glenn Frey is talking about living downstairs from Jackson Browne, and he could hear Jackson playing the intro to a song over and over and over, the first verse over and over and over, goes and makes coffee, comes back, plays some more, comes up with the next part over and over and over. And he's listening through the floor to him doing this. And he's like, that's how you write songs. So like Glenn Frey learned sort of, I guess, from Jackson Browne. It's a really great thing, you know, but the way that you see McCartney do it, there's no substitute. You just sit there and you play it over and over and over until you get it. And that's how you do it. I don't know, like just see where the music takes you, you know, it's like coming from somewhere else and you're like, just like, it's that divine intervention thing or whatever, where you're just like, you just flow with it and don't get in your own way by worrying about the fact there's already 10 zillion songs, you know, don't think about that shit. It doesn't matter. There's only you in that song in that moment. Just open the channel. Don't worry if it sounds like anything else. Don't worry if it's like, worry later if it sounds like something else, and you can tweak it a little so it doesn't, you know. But that's it, honestly, you know. What are your thoughts on 7 strings? Do you own any? I don't. I kind of would like one, but I sort of like would rather just have a 6-string guitar that's tuned lower, baritone, or that's why I have my Dan Electro. When I want to do that stuff, I don't need that extra string on the top, so I can play super high arpeggios if I'm playing the low. I don't like having to shift my thinking and my hand on the neck for 7 and compensate so that I've got more range. I don't need all those notes, you know, at once. As a matter of fact, I could have a 5-string guitar that's just low strings. That's basically a big 5-string bass. You know, I don't know. It's just more to worry about. I got enough with 6 strings to worry about. So the baritone guitar that's maybe geared towards, like if you're saying 7, I'm being stereotypical, like saying it's all about metal or whatever, but like I would like a heavy sounding baritone guitar, because I've got my Dan Electro, but it's a bit more twangy, you know, I still use it for heavy stuff because it's cool. But a baritone 6-string that's maybe got a hot humbucker or something would be kind of a cool thing. Yeah. Hollywood Actress says your comment about how to put music out sounds so refreshing. I think you're right. Thanks. Yeah, just kind of, you know, it seems to be, instead of, you know, fighting against the trends of the way that people are listening these days, because that's the thing. How do people want to listen? They listen on their phone, or they listen, you know, you can't fight against it so much. But there's also going to be a certain segment that want to hear the whole thing and maybe even want to hear it on vinyl or something. So it's like, give them that too, you know, and make it a special thing, you know, so that at the end you release it on vinyl, like I say, with another bonus track or something, you know, do 8 songs or 9 songs and then release the 10th, put it out as a whole album, bundled vinyl, something, you know, with a friggin' poster or t-shirt or signed copy or whatever you can do. A long time ago, Brian Ray, a guitar player with Paul McCartney, you know, and bass player, he taught me that a valuable thing, where he said it's important to give people something special. Like, you know, don't just make it your record and your music, make it, bundle it with, you know, he always does that. It would be like at the beginning of an album release, for the first couple weeks, it's a bundled thing, gift bag with like a t-shirt and a poster and the album. Make it something special so that because people are just streaming stuff now. So if you want to sell your music and release your music and make any money as an independent artist, go the extra mile and give people something special that's worth it, you know. value added kind of, package. That's just what we have to do now, It's just how it is. So it's just the music as an album is not enough. People do love swag. That's true. I like swag. I mean, I like, special stuff. I like, feeling like it's Jack White's a genius at this, by the way. When he released an album, I remember a number 4 or 5 years ago on vinyl, and it was like white vinyl, I think. And the first side would play from the inside, like a normal, put the record on the edge and it would play this. And side 2, you'd put on the inside and it would play out like this because the grooves he did backwards or something. Crazy shit like that. That's just like, that's fun. I don't know, little things that make people want to get like, you mean it's white vinyl and it plays from the inside out? That's so weird, right? Neat. Chris says, what was your rig when you played with Don Henley? It kind of evolved from, so when I first started with him, I had a wet, dry, wet rig, and I soon figured out that was kind of ridiculous in his group. That was coming from Chris, and then playing with Melissa Etheridge, I had it too. It was a smaller band. I mean, Melissa, for most of my tenure with her, was just guitar, bass, drums, and her on acoustic, really. A little bit of electric she would play, but I was really, I could fill that space with the stereo sound and stuff. And I was actually encouraged to do that by her producer, John Shanks, because he does that. He loves it. He's got a really crazy big guitar rig, and he liked that I could kind of do those sounds and stuff. So the wet, dry, wet thing even worked with her quite well, I think. But moving to Don's band, now you've got 2 keyboard players, 2 guitar players, background vocalists. Is a big band, big sounding band. A more focused mono sound was more the thing with him that would work better. And when you think about the Eagles recordings, they didn't have big wet, dry, wet rigs. It was like, even the stuff that he did with Mike Campbell and Boys of Summer and stuff in the 80s was more those kind of Mike Campbell style sounds, So a smaller sound that was more mid-focused and stuff would work better with Don. So I moved to, actually, I didn't go to a little amp. I probably should have maybe, but I went to a stereo rig instead, and I would kind of focus my sound more up the middle more than, Were I to play with him again, I would probably go maybe a Bella with pedals, or the PT-15. I used the last time I played with Don, I did, because I did do a one-off with him not that long ago. It was 3 years ago, maybe. I used the PT-15 because it had just come out with a single cabinet, and that was it. And it worked great. Just mono PT-15, one head, one. Not too complicated. Probably use the clean channel a lot with some pedals. It's kind of exactly what, the other guitar player on the other side of the stage would do. Stuart would play classic 50s with pedals. He had a Menatone overdrive, a few Boss pedals. That's it. Very simple rig, and he sounds great. He's a great guitar player. So, yeah. Some super chats here. You guys are too kind to the super chat. You're keeping me in coffee. Thank you very much. Music Therapy Lab says, happy holidays. Thanks for all you do. Heading to a PCR test so I can travel to Peru. I've got mine coming up on, I think it's Tuesday. I got to get one of those done. Yeah, so Tuesday morning. Have a great holiday and travel safe. And thank you for your super chat and always being here. I do appreciate that as well. We've got Rory Fan here. Thank you, good sir. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. And have a terrific holiday season. Leonard says, I just purchased a Sir Modern with the 788 30 neck, and it's perfect. Not too thin or wizard feeling. Yeah, I love the neck on the Modern, actually. It's sort of one of my favorite Sir neck profiles. I kind of have veered a little bit more towards thinner necks in the past few years. And that's it's some people might consider on the thin side, but it's not that thin. It's and my neck is, the even C slim. It's not super, it's not worlds apart from that, really. I don't think. Might be a bit more of a D shape than the even C slim, but still very cool. All of them, you should still look into doing voiceover work. It's funny. I saw Kenny Aronoff yesterday at a Christmas party, and I actually had a great talk with Kenny Aronoff yesterday. He was really, really cool, and he's a wonderful guy, actually. And but he said, you should be doing voiceover. Why don't you do voiceover or do be an announcer, radio announcer? I said, I've thought about it. I'd be happy to get into that. Maybe that's what I should do. New Year's resolution. I'll become I'm going to leave all this behind. Sell all of this. No, I'm not going to do that. But anyways, Christian says he's taken off. Thanks for a great stream. See you later, man. Have a great, if you celebrate Christmas, have a great Christmas, and have a great holiday season no matter what. And see you next time, I hope. Alex says, just bought a PRS 277 SE baritone. That's cool. Great for the heavier stuff. Also has split coil to get. Yeah, that sounds like a cool, like an SE. See, maybe I should get one of those or something. An SE, not too expensive, right? It's one of the SE. Let's take a look at your guitar. I want to see what it looks like. PRS SE baritone. Look here. Yeah, they're about a grand, right? Is that right? 277 SE. Where are they made? They make them over in Korea. That's cool looking. I could play that. I could get down with that. Let's see. Oh, $7.99. That's Sweetwater. Should I push buy? Should I do it? All you people are going to just, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, do it. Do it. Spend the money. Bunch of enablers. Gear acquisition syndrome. It's got a wide, fat neck, it says. We were just talking about thin and how I like thin necks. So, 10-inch radius. String through body kind of scene. Fixed bridge. Everybody else check this out if you're on your computer. What do you think? It's a charcoal burst. Kind of cool looking. I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about exactly. A baritone like that might be more up my alley than a 7-string. I really enjoy playing baritone. 7-string, I pick it up and it feels like alien to me. I know it wouldn't after a while, but oh, we already did that one. Sorry. Get Sir to make you baritone. Yeah, I don't know if they do that. You know, it's a whole thing with the do it. Everybody's like, do it, buy it, do it. Any updates on your Aura? I have no idea, honestly. Those guys, I leave John alone these days. I mean, I call him and I talk to him about other things, but you know, he's always got a million things to do and stuff. So I try not to get on his case about things. I'm having a lot of floaters right now. I hate that, man. It's just like two big ones drifting through my left field of vision, and I literally have to like shake my eye to like read your text here. It's annoying. Oh man. Oh my God. Well, it needs to happen. The Barathorn. Just right there. You've talked me into it. Marketing guy, you are. Do you have the tracking number yet? Says Jeff. Man. I really like baritones. I have one. It's not like I don't have my you guys have seen my baritone, right? Let's just get it while we're talking about. Oops. My jacket strummed the strings. Where is my baritone? Wait a minute. Is it not in here? There it is. This is my baritone, which has been awesome. The Dano. With the trim, with the wang bar, as we used to call them. Semi-hollow. Look at that thing. Come on. It's fun as hell. You know? You can get a big... Come on. Good times. Let's put that back. Guitars. All right. What else we got here? Matthew there in the super chat. Just got an MIJ, made in Japan, baritone Jaguar. Sounds phenomenal. Not the black humbucker one. It's a sunburst finish with normal Jag electronics, and I'm really impressed with the build quality. So fun to play. That's cool. That's awesome. Congrats on your new guitar. Thank you for the super chat. I really like baritones. You know, they are fun. They put on some like modulation and some delay and a big reverb, and then just play some slow, kind of moody shit. That's so fun to me on a berry. Buddy just bought a 277, dropped a set of Duncan 59 neck and custom 5 bridge. Sounds pretty monster. Neck is smaller than the old Mushok Sigs. I don't know which guitar that is, but that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a pretty cool guitar to me. I do kind of, I mean, $7.99 is pretty reasonable. I wonder if it's in any of the colors. Kind of cool. The whatever, the sunburst charcoal thing. Kind of cool. I mean, yeah, man, I could get down with that. Mark Lettieri has been using that model. Is that the 277? Is that the one you mean? That's interesting. It certainly looks fun. I think I missed a super chat, and I don't want to miss it. So, or did I? I think that might have been Ian's that disappeared. This one that I just answered. Yeah. All right. What else we got here? Nah, pass it up, says Shiny Beast. I keep burping. Tell you. Let's see. How about that 6-string bass the Beatles were using? Those are those classic Fender. Yeah, the classic Fender bass 6. I love those things. In the 90s, a friend of mine, a roommate, had one, and I used to play it at some cover gigs that we used to do together. And it was really cool. That's similar to that though. You know what I mean? It's more of that. It's just single coils and stuff, and I can probably get pretty close to that vibe with that thing. Although the Fender looks amazing, super cool. It'd be cool to have one of those too, I guess. But I would really like. I think if I got another baritone, it would have to be the heavy kind of, because I've kind of got my twangy, vibey thing covered with that. And they're sort of niche guitars, but I would love a Suhr. I don't think Suhr makes a baritone though. They might, but I don't think it's a total different neck geometry and stuff, right? The spacing and I just don't know that they've ever done that. They do 7 strings though. So those metal guys. Yeah. Have you tried Lewitt LCT 40 mics? I did. I have a Lewitt mic right here. This is called I always forget the LCT 440. Is that this one? This might be the one that I have here. LCT. I thought this was here. Just one sec here. Let me see what this one's called. The LCT 440 Pure is the one that I have here. LCT 040, I don't know that mic, but I have a 440 Pure that I use on my camera here, which sort of looks like a 414. It looks like its own thing, but it's about the size of a 414. I think it's a great microphone. So it gets used all the time around here. I literally have it mounted on top of my big Canon video camera, and it's it's capturing my voice when I do videos. Not right now, but when I make my videos with my camera, that's what I use for. So it gets used just about more than any other microphone around here, actually. So I like the Lewitt microphones. I think they make great mics. Just that one in particular, an 040, I don't know that one. LCT 040 are little pencil mics. Cool. Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty nice, I'm sure, compared to, if it's anything like these, they seem pretty cool. So, what else we got here? Let's see, what time is it? 1:22. I'll hang for another 20 minutes or so. Then I'm going to split, get some lunch, and then get to work on all this crap I got to do before this week is insane. Let's see here. Thoughts on the Selection 1265, not Creamback. So I don't really have a great perspective on the reissue. The originals, they're pretty cool. Dave Friedman really likes them, and he has an original 412 from like 81 or 82 that has those. That was the speaker that they put out kind of after the G12H30 and the Greenback to be the kind of the natural evolution or whatever, Celestion speakers, whatever. I think they came out even before the 75s. And the original was cool. When I hear them, I'm never like, oh, that's amazing and I want that sound. But, because I'm just, I don't know, dialed into the Greenback thing primarily. But with a few, I deviate sometimes and use V30s and other things. But pretty cool. And I just don't have a great perspective on the reissue and how close they sound because I'm not an expert in them. I don't know. But I do have them in a Hedgehog cabinet that I have here, a 212 Hedgehog open back situation. They sound good in that cabinet, but from what I've heard, I've used it a little bit. Yeah. Do I like modern metal? Sometimes. Yeah, sure. It's not like I listen to a ton of it. I really like Gojira, and I listen to those records the whole way through, and like that band is super musical to me. And that record they put out a few years ago, that was kind of a tribute to there's two brothers in the band, right? And their mom passed away, and they made that awesome record that was just like came out in, was it 2015, 16, 17, and the videos were like so great. It was art. It was artwork, that record, you know, and so cool. And I loved the videos. They were heartbreaking, you know, and really just great art. So they're on another level to me. But I'm no expert because I don't listen to a ton of modern metal, but I really like those guys and I do listen to them. That's a record I'll put on, just enjoy, you know, that particular one. So, has anybody listened to the new Failure record? It's not metal, but it sure is heavy at times. You know, I don't know if I would call them metal, although they could definitely just fans of them, you know, that are going to get into them. But it's great. The new Failure is super cool. They can be just as heavy and dark as anyone, you know, and it's really. If we want to draw a line through the Gojira and Failure, I like when there's a bent in the songwriter, the creative chord voicings or things where it twists you a little bit. You hear it in my writing, I think too. Like I always try and go somewhere a little like where it's maybe not expected, or with a one note in a chord or something. Like, oh, that's unique. And I love how Failure does that. And I like how Gojira does that too, with the like melodically and well, sometimes still being super technical and stuff. There's always this. It's always musical, you know. It's not just they're not playing fast to just play fast. Like, you know, the drummer's incredible, really technically capable, but there's always this underlying melodic, harmonic, like badassery going on. Just really, really good writing. Yeah. All right, down to the bottom of the chat here. I think I missed a super chat. I'm going to find that. Somebody's, I missed a super chat. I'm going to find it here. Sorry. Oh, my question. That's Joe. Sorry, Joe, if I missed yours. What's your take on the Emerald Virtuo? I did a video on that guitar. It's a really cool guitar. I would just say you got to watch out for feedback because it is a true hollow. It's more like an acoustic guitar that happens to have some electric, you know, with the pickups and stuff. So it's a unique sound. It's not a Les Paul, you know. So for, you know, a guitar player, especially, you know, just don't expect to get a lot of volume with overdrive or fuzz out of it on a stage with an amp. That's all, because it's going to, you know, more like an acoustic. Approach it like you would an acoustic guitar that has some really neat capabilities for MIDI and electric sounds. That's the main thing with it. It's very well made. It's very forward thinking. Did a video on this for those that hadn't seen it on my channel. A little while ago. You guys are talking about latency and Pultecs and different things here. And there's a guy named John that asked a question, and I'm missing it here. I'm going to look back and try and find it. Bent Tom says, is putting a Pultec style EQ on a guitar rack, It's more a studio thing. I don't think you need it in a guitar rack. And maybe it's amazing. I don't know, you know, but it's the kind of thing you use in the studio to just give that larger than life bigger on an already mic'd up sound, you know, clarity and big, just everything sounds better kind of thing. It might work in a guitar rack, but I've never seen anybody use one like that. Got your PT100 plug-in Focusrite interface, PC DAW for travel practice, but there's big latency playing through the laptop. You got to set your buffer lower. I mean, with a Focusrite, it's just Focusrite USB interface probably, right? So you need to go in the buffer settings. What are you using for DAW? It's the buffer in your DAW. You set it to 64. If you have a brand new or relatively new interface, it shouldn't be a problem. Set it to 64 or 128. at the most, and then your latency should go down to just a few milliseconds. Yeah, there's a super chat there. I'm going to grab that in just a sec. Let's see. Play a new Supro amp. I haven't played very many Supros, although I do remember hearing one at NAMM a few years ago when they brought a little tube combo that was called the King, Blues King, I think they called it. Kind of a Blues Junior, Blues King, you know. And that was pretty cool for like $600 or something. That was the last one I really heard. Now, the Sun Dragon, is that the name of the Jimmy Page amp that Mitch Colby from Park did? That sounds amazing. I think Supro makes a version of that style of amp too, but the Sun Dragon's the closest. A friend of mine has one, actually. And Brian Key, who did the recording the Beatles book, he has one. It sounds amazing. Really great sound. So that's it. It's not a Supro, but that amp sounds amazing. Let's see. Favorite album of 2021? Halsey. I'm going to go with Halsey. What a great record. Done with Trent Reznor and Atticus. That's the first thing that came to mind. So it's just kind of, you know, for a modern kind of, I don't know if you call her pop. I mean, definitely at times, right? But for a record, it was just really, you know, it sounds like a cool Nine Inch Nails record to me that, you know, was done. I mean, it's none of the, you know, it's all the typical pop trappings of the, you know, particular drum sounds and the ridiculous hi-hats and stuff like that. It's none of that, you know, it's all the cool, creative, maybe at times uncomfortable choices or whatever, you know. Mammoth, Wolf Van Halen, also a great record. Yeah, also a really cool record. And I'm a big Wolf fan and, you know, champion. Let's see. The PT100 is very cool. Why, thank you. You might get, you know, if you ask me that and then I pick the Halsey record, you might, it's an insight into I'm a pretty eclectic listener. Like I love the rock stuff too, you know, but I listen to electronic music. I listen to all kinds of stuff, you know. I just happen to be like a rock guitar player that goes down that path, you know. But like when it comes to new music and stuff, I'm really interested in a lot of different styles of music outside of straight up guitar rock and roll, you know. And that's just how I am. So yeah. Somebody's suggesting the ASIO driver. Most Focusrite, you will need an ASIO driver from them. Yeah, make sure your drivers are. I don't know much about. I've never owned. I mean, I had a PC was my first laptop, but that was 22 years ago, and I hated that thing. So I'm a Mac guy. You know, I'm sure I could use a PC now. A lot has changed in 20 years, but I don't know anything about drivers and stuff for PCs or even how to. You know, that's like alien stuff to me. So yeah, there would be other people that would tell you more about what these guys are saying. It's probably it all comes down to buffers and stuff, though. So making sure the buffers and the drivers are rocking. Saw you on the Tonight Show. Great job and awesome gig. Thank you. Appreciate that. It was fun. Cool to do some US TV again. It's been a minute. Anthony Bruno says, could you ever go over your gain staging process from setting up the pedal board and into the DAW? What you're saying is a lot more than I think about. I mean, I just make sure I get about coming out. Okay, let's say I'm recording mics. If I'm recording a mic signal, I try and peak out at like minus 12, something like that, you know. And so I do a thing with the two microphones. Within Logic, I sum them via an aux, a bus, to one track. So I've got a 57 and a 4050 on the cabinet in the other room. They go in out of my API mic pre into my UA interface. Got the two channels that come up in Logic. Within Logic, you can then send out an aux and bus to another track. So on my template, I've got track 1 and 2, or fader 1 and 2 anyway, are the inputs from the mics. The outputs of those are sent to a bus, not to anything else, not to the stereo out or whatever. They go to a bus. The bus then routes to, I can then set the input from that bus on another input channel, record, enable it, and now it's recording the sounds of both those mics blended to one track. So that's how I do that. And I'll mix them to where they sound good and trying to sort of peak at like maybe -12 or -10 if it's really hot, something like that, right? Which is probably hotter than some people do it, but not as hot as some people go overboard. It used to be like you wanted to bring them as hot as you could and all that. Now it's not necessary. So long story short. So if I'm using a load box like the reactive load, I'll take the line out right into my recording interface, nothing in between, straight in via my patch bay. And then I'll do the same thing. I've got it set for about -12, like in Logic. And that's about it. I hope that's helpful. I don't know if it is or not. Here's Joe. Merry Christmas. Thanks. Appreciate it, brother. I like your happy face. Little avatar guy there. I appreciate that. I do. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. And I hope you're all having a great week and that you have a good week. Just the start of the week now, isn't it? Yeah, I go to -12 to -10. Works great. Yeah, me too. And then I pull all the faders in Logic down to like -10 or something like that, so that you're not overloading the bus, and then just kind of mix from there. I tend to group within the DAW, I'll group all the drums to a stereo drum fader generate. This is just doing my little demos and stuff. I might do other things if I'm doing records, but like I'll group all the drums. Bass goes out its own bus. Guitars all go out a bus. All those go to the stereo bus, So, and then I can control the overall guitar and drum levels with just one fader and stuff. And that's how I mix just for my tracks that you hear me do on YouTube. Chris says, can you talk about the Frankie used with Mitch Malloy? Stock EVH. Yes, stock. Pretty much bone stock. Just added a trim stop so that the bridge would not hit the body when it went all the way back. And now it stops parallel. That's the only thing I did to it. Works fine. Works great. Love the Van Halen tribute you did with Mitch. Thanks, man. Yeah, super fun. Super fun. Are you going to be using the PT15 on tour this year? And are there plans for a 30? Not a 30, but there's I was talking about it a little bit earlier in the show. There's been a long time we've been talking about a 50 and working up things for a 50 watt. So that'll happen eventually. And it'll be a little different. But yeah, I'm using, long story short, I'm using the PT15 on same one I used the last time. It's over in the UK, the distributor over there, fellow that works for Sir. He has one, so I'm taking that one. Yeah. And I think I'm taking a 412 this time, though. I'm throw a 412 in a row case and send it over there. As long as everything happens, we'll see over the next week or two, but hopefully it all goes ahead as planned. Yeah. Rory Fan says, I will look into buffers. Yeah, setting the buffers where it's at. It's probably set right now, like defaults, Focusrite and different. It probably defaults to like 500, and then you need to set it lower, and it'll work just fine. The more tracks that you end up piling up and stuff, and then trying to, that's when you run into problems with the buffer. You might start to hear pops and clicks in your audio, and that's generally how you got to set the buffer one higher. Then you get a little more latency, but it gives the computer a little more time to compute. Yeah. A PT15 is on my list to acquire in the near future. Seems like I can do just about anything you want and many ways to capture the sound. Yep, that's it. Many ways to use it. You can use it as a headphone amp. You can use it as a full-blown guitar amp on stage. You can use it line out to the PA. You can use it any way you want. You can do all that at the same time. You and Reb Beach ever hand out? That's Sir. I don't know what handout means, but I've met Reb. I actually met Reb at I've emailed with him a couple times, but also met him at that store in Stuff Music in like outside Pittsburgh, right? Is that where we were? I did a clinic there. Great music shop, like family-owned music shop. Really nice store. I love the vibe. Actually, it was great. And that's his hang. Like that's where he's from around there, and it was a really cool. I really liked it around there. It was cool, and that's where I met him. He came in to actually. I didn't think he knew I was there. He came in to pick up a delay pedal or something, and oh yeah, of course, and Sir guy and everything, and it was a good hang. It was nice. So he still goes there and shops just like when he was a kid. Pretty neat. Is there any benefit to buying an old Marshall with all the boutique versions now? I mean, they hold their value. They go up in value, so it's a great investment. A good old one with the original Transformers and everything. It's just something special about them. I don't know. They smell good when you turn them on too. If I turn on here, let's turn on this one right now. Let's see. Does it smell good? Yeah, it does. Smells good. It's got that cool old rock and roll smell. Honestly, though, I think that the new ones, there's plenty of great new boutique stuff out there. But the value, and there's something cool about having an original thing, right? Instead of a new one. If you could only have one, I mean, the SL68 is like hard to beat because it does so much and sounds so great. I think, like my old dual showman, yes, an AC30. It's just a good. It's heartwarming, isn't it? Pete's fetish, yeah, good smelling amps, yeah, exactly. I love the smell of old Marshalls in the morning. Have you ever tried Watkins or no? I haven't really. Like a Dominator. I've heard them a little bit actually. Who really liked those? I think was Eddie Van Halen. He had a couple of those around his studio, and I know that he used them on things and stuff. As a matter of fact, the little thing I did with them, I think he was using those, 2 of them. I think. I think he was a fan. They're cool. Did you already filled people in on the Tonight Show? How was rehearsal? Well, Plexico. What's up, man? It was great. So somebody else was asking if I had fun in New York. So we did it in LA at Henson Studio D, and it was smooth as can be. Showed up in string quartet, my buddy Lauren Gold on piano, acoustic guitar, AKG 451 microphone. Let's go. And yeah, we just played the song down, and it's a take. That's the way we did it. I was mentioning the shows have kind of changed the way they're doing things a lot these days. Since COVID, not having musical guests right there on the show, they tend to do things remotely now. And sometimes you noticed all the guests that day were, just phoning in. Like Scarlett Johansson. It's funny, I was talking about Scarlett Johansson on the show last week on here, it was like, because she was a guest on the last, maybe one of the late night shows I did, and then she was the guest again this time. Anyway, I thought that was funny. But she looked like she just basically dropped the kids off at school and then come home and was on a Zoom call with mom or something. It's like, this is the way people are doing these things now. It's kind of wacky, and it's all done, like a lot of them are done remotely at different places. So that sort of shifts the burden of getting a great recording and a great, video and everything and editing all onto the artists at this point, which is didn't used to be that way. Of course, we would show up at NBC, a few miles from where I am right now here in LA. If you were doing the Tonight Show, you'd get there at 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m. Sound check would be at 11 or 11:30. Make sure all the stuff's working. You'd come back around 1 to do camera blocking. So then you'd play through the song once or twice, 3 times maybe, for the cameras. They'd figure out who was featured at certain times, like a drum fill or a guitar thing, a solo, and then they would okay, we know what we're doing with the cameras now. You come back at 5 or so and do the taping, which was always like at the Tonight Show, a screen in front of you. You can hear the audience out there, and you can hear Leno talking to people, Yeah. It's like, because it's behind the screen. It's kind of nerve-wracking, you're there waiting to go, and then that screen goes up and everybody's clapping, and then you're like 3, 4, and then 3 minutes later it's all over. So it was all that hurry up and wait all day for that. You barely get to warm up. I mean, you don't really get to warm up, and the song happens, and then you're done. And then some guy in a booth, if you're lucky, you maybe got to run up to the booth. There's a guy in there mixing. Used to be, I think they used to kind of go straight to 2-track or some sort of stereo thing. I don't know how they did it, but then later on, I remember moving to Pro Tools, and it was multi-tracked. And I remember one time doing a Tonight Show where I played Bohemian Rhapsody with the Queen We Will Rock You orchestra, and a guy that was on American Idol, I think, was singing. And I remember there was a problem with the piano, not with the guy's performance, but the audio dropped out on the piano for like a bar. That would have been a big problem back in the day, but it was like he grabbed a piece of the piano from later and moved it over and edited it in, right? And that was like problem solved. It was great, okay, great. So it was at that point I realized, like, if there's an error, if somebody makes a mistake, it could be fixed. Which was like a little like that was a little like security blanket in my head after that, when noticing that, because that was around 2005 or 6. So then anytime I did a show after that, I'm like, all these guys are multi-tracking. So if I ever like had a massive, like some kind of stupid note that I did or something, I could always ask for them. I never did, I promise. But when I realized they were multi-tracking things, it was like, they could fix things after the fact, if there was, because there's always that pressure of like going out there and you're like, it's got to be good, it's TV, there's 2 million people watching or whatever. It was like a little security blanket in the back of my head when I realized they were multi-tracking and that you could go up if there was some catastrophic thing and ask them to fix something. So, but I don't ever remember that happening. Anyways, I just remember that one problem with the piano and them editing, and then it was cool. But basically, my point is that it's some guy in there that is a show guy at NBC or whatever, and they would mix, 20 minutes right after the show's done. Mix, there's it, and then it gets whatever printed to however they print a show to go out on the air 3 hours later on the East Coast or whatever, right? Because this was LA, so it's like if it's 5-6 p.m. the show airs at so that's the equivalent of 9 p.m. East Coast. Well, the show's got to air at 11:30, so I mean they literally would finish it in like an hour or two, whatever, any little transitions and things they need to do, and then it goes out, as I understand it. And then airs 3 hours later on the West Coast, right? So that's how you would do that. Well, things are just done very differently now after, from COVID onward. You're seeing these musical performances where basically like people can, some of them look like full-blown music videos, Ours was an actual, that's us playing, straight one take, top to bottom, and then, a nice mix and stuff, and they do the video edit, and it goes over to Fallon, and they put it out. So that's how it's done. But that's the thing. Auto-tune. Thank you for the super chat. You are too kind. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and a happy new year to you. Too kind. Let's see. That's interesting. Leland Sklar did a Sony backlot walkthrough as he got ready for his Facts of Life reunion gig. Yeah, the lots are interesting. The show I did the most was The Tonight Show. I think I've done it 17 times or something like that now, over the years with different artists. And at one point I was doing it a lot over a period of a couple of years, and I got to know like where I'd be on like a first name basis with some of these crew guys when I walk in. They're like, "Hey Pete, good to see you." That was cool. I felt like, man, I'm a professional musician. I'm showing up here enough. These guys remember me. But the other thing about doing Leno was he was a very nice guy, by the way. One of the only guys, he would walk around and always say hi to everybody. He'd come knock on your, because we'd all have dressing room for the band, dressing room for the artist, and dressing rooms, and he'd come up, knock on the door. Hey guys, just want to say hi, and he'd stick his head in. I remember having a little chat with him about, it was when, electric cars were first coming out and stuff. And there was a hydrogen powered Honda that he was driving as kind of like a promotional thing for, like, he had one. And I was like, hey, tell me about that hydrogen powered, and then he talking about cars. He's like all excited. Right. And he's like, oh man, that thing's amazing. He's like, I put in the show, it made a show about it. And he's like, I put a glass underneath the tailpipe, and all that comes out is water, and I drink the glass coming off the emissions coming out of the hydrogen powered car. I was like, that's amazing. So he was always very nice, but things have changed. It's just different. It's different now. And as I sort of shifted doing more touring overseas and playing with Japanese artists, French artists and stuff, I started doing less and less U.S. television. So this is the first show I've done in ages for one of the late night TV shows. And yeah, things have changed. Let's see. Here's back to some guitar stuff. Someone earlier was talking about Wilkinson saddles. I'm taking them out of a guitar doing today's show, not because they're not great, because this guitar's nut and tuners won't hold up to wang bar use. Sounds like you need a new nut and tuners. Get a Tusk nut on there and a better thingamajig. Okay. What else we got here? Trying out a run of the Super Slinky strings from New York XL. Is that what that means? New York XL, New York, whatever. Liking them so far. Yeah. Hey, I'm an Ernie Ball guy. The set I use is funny because I have a lot of different strings in this drawer here right now. But these are the Primo Slinkies I use, and then I've been using these I got a bunch of these custom gauge pure nickels for the Van Halen gig in the Eddie Van Halen gauges. So 9, 11, 15, 24, 32, 40. So there's some 40 gauge for the low E's. So I've still got a lot of these floating around. And I put those on the Van Halen guitar to use. And just reminded me I need to pack up some strings for tour as well. This is the gauge that I've been using on most of my guitars, though, the Primo Slinky from Ernie Ball. So it's got a 44 low E and a 9.5, 12. So they're 9.5. 9.5, 12 instead of 11 on the B. 16, 24, 34, 44. That's these guys. I'm going to use these for the tour coming up that I'm doing. I may go to 9s next year and just 9s across the board. 9 to 42. My hand just appreciates it more as I get older, and they sound fine. I enjoy playing more with them, So I might just be a 9s guy from here on out. But I've got a lot of the Primo Slinkies and stuff here, and that's what I'm going to use for the run coming up. Just watched the Tonight Show performance. Very nice. Thank you. Appreciate that. Joe says I like the 9.5. I do too. Yeah, 7 gauge. I'm not going to go that light. Not even going to go to 8s, but 9s. Set of 9s is. I think that's just fine. Yeah. All right. No Van Halen songs are easy, but for an intermediate bar band guy, what song would be the most approachable? What do you guys think? Maybe You Really Got Me, or and that's a fan favorite, right? What's some of the other ones? Not too hard to play. I mean, maybe Ain't Talking About Love, but people say it's easy, and then it's really, even Eddie said it was easy, but getting the arpeggiation just right is important, and it's it's only a few chords, not really that hard, but I wouldn't say it's, oh yeah, Running with the Devil. Yeah, Running with the Devil. That's a good one. If you can get the slide. Talked about that before. Unchained. Yeah, the solo though. Solo's not easy. And the sort of the B section is not really that easy either. I think You Really Got Me. Somebody says I'm the one. Yeah. No, none of it is easy. Maybe Running with the Devil is actually probably a good one to get a handle on initially. The lead is not too crazy, and it's really melodic and memorable, and your mind just kind of goes there when you play it. So I think that's probably a pretty good one. Ain't Talking About Love, but the speed of picking is hard. The solo's got a little the little skips in the, it's got its own. It's all intense is the thing. So you have to kind of play it hard and get but also lay back into the, yeah, You Really Got Me, Running with the Devil. There's background vocals to consider here too, right? So, you do Running with the Devil. You got to have 2 people nailing the background vocals in order for it to really sound any good, or it sound terrible. So, Ain't Talking About Love, Running with the Devil. You really got me. One of those. Everybody wants some. Everybody wants some is, yeah, actually. And it's fun. And your drummer gets to kind of play solo, maybe. That's cool. Great riff. So much fun to play. I'd never played that song before doing it with Mitch, and we did it, and it was like so much fun, actually. Like, what a party. It's a really fun song to play live. It's an arena rock song, you know, for sure. It's really fun. Tribal. Yeah. Little Dreamer. It kind of requires a lot of finesse. Dynamics. It's a great song, but it's like, I wouldn't say it's easier than You Really Got Me, which is a little bit more like full on, and you know, or even Running with the Devil guitar wise. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? I guess I should go soon. It's one. I'll go to 2 and then I'll split. Yeah. How was the transition from going from wedges on stage to in-ears? I don't know that I've made it yet after 20 years. Does it take a while or is it smooth? What do you recommend for in-ears? How many drivers? Not too many drivers. 3 is fine for guitar. The more drivers you get, basically, it's just more bass. And to me, most of the ones I've tried that have more drivers are fuller sounding, but I don't want that because I can already hear the bass coming out of the amp. Even through the in-ears on stage, I can feel it. So too much bass equates to now I can't hear my instrument that well and it gets weird. So I would say 3 driver is enough. Sensophonics are only 2 drivers, I think. And they sound fine to me for guitar. They are also not fans of too many drivers because I think all that low end in the in-ears right on your eardrum is bad for your hearing. I would say I am using this. I know there's a super chat there. I'm going to get to the fellow in Canada in just a second here. I'm using this set on tour with its own pack. This is the ASI is the company, I do believe. Ambient system. These are generics. Which this is actually the set I'm going to use. It's just I got some molds done, and this little thing slips into the mold. It's a little clunky. It's a generic set, and so these sound fine. If you don't want to get molds done, these do sound good, but you know they've got buds on them, and so having the actual molds is a great thing. But this is the set I'm going to use for tour, even though it's a little clunky. I'm going to take these off, and they make molds to actually put on these. The ultimate way to do it is to have the whole thing done with the mold. And these, what I was going to say about these, they have mics built into them. So these, you can get some ambient sound, and via this pack and a little app, you can blend in the ambience at whatever level you want. You can actually preset 2 different levels for the ambience on stage. And then now you got stage volume in your, which is, I like at any volume, right? You can lower it to -10, -6, +2. You can even go louder, turn your band up. So that's the system I'm going to use, ASI Audio. You can look it up online and see. And that for me is exciting because I'm not a huge fan of closing myself off from the audience and then having everything in a mix. Like I want to be able to move closer to the drums and hear more drums. So with this, I'll be able to do that, and also hear my amp from the source, and also some mix in the in-ears, and get, you know. So hopefully this works out. I haven't done it yet, but I'm excited about it. This will be the first tour where I'm trying those. If I do end up liking it, I'll get the full molds done with the mold and the mics and everything built into the earpiece. So, but you understand what I'm saying, right? The difference. These have the can you see how it's like the little bud there, right? And then I'm going to put the mold on the end of that. Evidently, it just slips on the end there, and then you put these in your ear. It's a little clunky compared to having the entire thing molded, which they do now. So you can go either way. This system is not that expensive for what it is. I mean, normal in-ears can cost $500, $600, $700, $1,000, $1,200, depending on how many drivers and all that. This whole thing is, I think it's around $600 or something to buy from them. This system with just the generics. So, and then you can get molds to put on these. So I'm going to try this, and then if I end up really liking it, I will get the entire piece. They make the entire thing molded with your personal mold, and it's not the stick-on thing. Does that make sense? Yeah, well, that makes sense. Peter, thank you. Good sir. Happy holidays to you, man. I'll be visiting Canada very soon. When using in-ears, do you use a crowd mic to mix in some of that? Well, see, this is really like, it's like the mics are right here. So then you just blend them in. It's like an active earplug. So you can really just like, you can have the ambient sound, just like I'm hearing right now, you know? So like, it's like literally people can just come up and talk to you on stage. You can hear the instruments like, just like normal, but you've also got an earphone in that then lets you mix in the sound, right? It's like that. Some people do audience mics. It's like, it's not the same, you know? Then you've got a static mic that's pointing at the audience from usually either side of the stage like this. And there'll be one guy in front of it that's drunk. Ah! And you hear him really loud throughout the show. Oh God, turn down the ambient mics tonight. That guy's crazy. It's not like having, you know, like this is literally like it's like having the advantages of wearing no in-ears at all, but at a reduced volume, you know, it's just like an active earplug that you can have the ambient sound at any level. So, yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Let me go down to the bottom of the chat here. The mics are in your ears, not good. Well, you know, how do you know that? Have you tried it? It's pretty cool, dude. I've got them here and I've tried them. I've tried them here with loud guitar through a cabinet. You can turn them down. Here, let me show you the app. It's going to make more sense to you. Make more sense to you. When I show you. No, that's not it. That's it. Okay, let me turn up the screen a little bit. Okay, here's the app that Bluetooths up to the thing. This is a limiter. So you can set this anywhere from, the top is 105. I've got it set right now at 99 dB. So you can turn that on or off so that it limits the sound going to your ears. This is the ambient mic level. So I can turn them down -12 all the way down to off. -24 is the last setting before off. So that's essentially like an earplug. You know, most earplugs are what, -29 or something, or -28, -24. What's the difference? It's mixed down to the level where you can't really hear it. So you can bring this all the way up to, you know, whatever you want, -4, -6, -8. Now you've got mics at what, it's an active earplug. You can turn down the ambient sound, right? And on the pack itself, you can have two settings of two different ambient settings. So you can have it really loud or normal, like 0 dB or whatever. Then like between songs, you can turn it up, go walk over to somebody and talk to them. You can hear them just like normal, like you don't have in-ears in. And then hit the button on the pack and it goes back to -10 or -8 or whatever you want, right? You can do that if you want to right here on the pack. There's a push button with two settings. Or this push button can actually turn the mics up and down in increments. You can use it in either mode. Pretty cool, right? Come on now. That's cool. And then on the next page, no, that's not it. Here it is. An EQ. So now you can EQ your in-ears and the whole mix however you want. Graphic EQ. That's it. Easy. You can set it to flat. You can EQ. You can do whatever you want. And then once that's set, you don't have to open that app again. Once you set it up the way you want, you know, now you got your two settings of the mics on there. Put in your in-ears. Rock and roll. Ambient sound. Lovely. Lovely. Okay. What else we got here? How do you compare the thin line 72 and normal solid wood telly? Well, I'm on an ambient kick. I was going to say ambient. What I meant was hollow. Like I've got a Sir sitting right here that has an F-hole in it. This is their thin line telly, basically. By the way, I think I'm going to take this to the UK and use it. This thing sounds great. It's just a great solid rhythm guitar, basically. But it's hollow with a solid block, right? And it has some air around the note and stuff, and it's cool, you know? So it's a different sound. How do I compare it? I mean, many times the hollow tellies, they don't have, sometimes it's a humbucker in the neck and a single in the bridge, or sometimes it's the two, you know, the wide range humbuckers, they called them in the 70s. It's like a different thing, a different kind of guitar. It's not as country. I don't know. A bit more like a solid rock and roll workhorse guitar rather than a 52, you know, Swamp Ash Broadcaster or something that has a bit more of that. It's like a different, I just think of it like a different guitar. The only thing that's the same is really the body shape, you know. once you put some humbuckers in it and hollow out the body and stuff, part of it anyway, it's a different instrument. I think of it as a bit more like the twangy, typical Nashville Telly thing is the one thing. And then I think those guitars work great. I mean, you see Chris Shiflett using, his signature model is kind of a double humbucker. They're a bit more like a rock workhorse to me, the other ones. You would see the Stones use them on stage, and along with the other type of Telly too, but let's see. Okay, what else we got here? Amazing app with in-ears. Yeah, pretty cool. And John says, how much are they? I think they're somewhere in the $600 vicinity for this in-ear system. I haven't, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah. John Hancock is, I believe, posting the same post over and over again. He wants us to say something about it. So let's take a look at it. I went to see a live band. I work with a guitar player. I'm not criticizing you, John. It's totally cool. I understand I don't get to everything all the time. I was in a old brick building bar, and the sound is bad in there. And so the drums and bass took over the sound. Very muddy. Ever notice this? Well, a lot of hard surfaces and cymbals and, echoey, and then things, especially if it's a square box. It's just a recipe for, when nothing's odd surfaces, soft surfaces, all those things tend to break up sound waves and make things a little bit more, less of an echo chamber, less hard sounding, So yeah, any kind of hard sounding room that's a big rectangle or big square, the sound tends to sound chaotic in places like that. So harder, Girl Gone Bad or I'm the One? I'm going to go with Girl Gone Bad. Yeah, absolutely harder than I'm the One. But that's just for me. I can play I'm the One. I'm good at playing I'm the One. I'm gonna go there and say that. I can play I'm the One like top to bottom, and if I'm warmed up, I think I can nail it. Girl Gone Bad, not right now. There's parts of Girl Gone Bad that to me are slightly elusive with the interplay between Alex and Ed. It's just like this amazing connection, So yeah. What else we got here? Let's see. We got a super chat from someone. I know I'm still here and it's 2:06, but I'm having fun, so I'll go a little bit longer. What are the pros, cons recording with delay or verb versus adding it later? Well, if you print it, then you're stuck with it. So that's the con. The pro are, now you've got a decision made, and that's one less thing to decide later because you can't change it. So as long as I've printed delay and reverb before and quite like it, as long as you just have to think about it as you're doing it and really listen. Maybe record a pass and listen back and be like, is this going to be okay in the mix, or is it going to be too soupy, or not enough? It's okay if it's not enough because you can always add a little more to compensate, in the mix. But if it's a good sound, it's a good sound. Trust, I like trusting my instincts. Like, this sounds awesome. We're going with this. Yeah. No right and wrong way. If it sounds good, it is good. Whatever it sounds right at the end of the day. Miguel says, effects before or after cab IR? Kind of a question that sort of goes hand in hand. I'm planning a rig with the Surreactive Load IR loader and pedal delay and reverb. You can do it either way. The more that you put the effects downstream, the more it becomes sort of a studio thing. You can get stereo without 2 amps then. If you do it after the IR, you can add some stereo delays. It's a real easy way to get stereo and delays and reverbs and stuff to your recordings, as well as in the PA. If you want a very sophisticated sound in your PA for your gigs and stuff, or in your in-ears, if you use in-ears, you can do that easily with a post effects. It sounds a little more studio than it does. There's something about, even with an effect loop on an amplifier, if you put the effects post distortion but in the effect loop on, say, the PT15 or 50 watt head or something, if you drive the amp hard, the power amp still starts working and kind of compressing the effects a little bit, because the effects are still going into the power amp at that point, and you'll get a bit of the tone of, and it tends to accentuate the effects a little bit more, I find. So that's why if you run, say, you run a delay or a reverb in front of an amp, it blows it up because it's going into the preamp and getting compressed by the preamp and stuff. And sometimes it's like too much, or sometimes it's a really cool sound. You know, it just depends. Echoplex that way, you know, but really the delay sounds loud and it's dynamic. You hit hard and the delay jumps out. You play quiet and the delay is not so loud, right? Because you're not distorting the amp as much. It's not compressing the delay as much and blowing it up. Put it in the loop, you get much less of that, because most power amps, you're not blowing up as much as a preamp and gaining it up, but you still get a little of that effect, especially on something like an AC30, like these amps. This amp has an effect loop in it, my Top Hat King Royale. It's a 30-watt AC30 style amp with a loop. I don't particularly like running effects in the loop of that amp because they blow up. I remember playing gigs with them, and you know, you'd set your sounds at home or at rehearsal, maybe you turn it up a bit at the gig, and now you're driving the power amp part and the EL84s and the power amp in one of those. When it gets driven, it's like it's making distortion. All of a sudden the delay is like super loud, you know, so it's a little uncontrollable. So it can be a great thing, but you know, you got to keep it's what I'm saying is it's volume dependent, and if you change the volume, you might notice your effects not nearly as loud, and then you turn it up, now they get way louder. So loops in some amps almost don't make sense. AC30s is one of the ones that I sort of feel like it's pointless. If you're gonna do it, you might as well just run them right in the front like the Edge did. You know, if you're gonna, it's then the amp stays more pristine. The circuit of the amp, you're putting the effect into the front. It's getting blown up anyway. So why, you know, put it in the middle? Because effects loops always are a bit of a compromise. Some of them are great. The one in the PT15, John Sir, I mean, he makes effects loops as good as anybody, better than just about 99% out there. And it's all about, you know, you're sending the signal out of the amp, and you just imagine, I mean, you've preamped the signal, got it up to a nice hot like level within the amplifier. Now you got to send it out to some unknown device that the amp designer doesn't know what you're going to use. Could be a pedal, could be whatever. It goes through some A to D converter or something if it's digital. But it's always a little bit of a compromise. That comes back into the amplifier at generally like kind of a lower level, especially if it's coming out of a pedal, than what would have just been going through the amp had you not inserted anything there. And then you got to gain it back up again to hit the power amp. Well, this can create signal to noise stuff, and this is why, you know, effects loops, they can just be they're not all created equal, and if it's not a good one, it can really compromise your sound. So all things to consider, you know. Anyways. That was a really long-winded answer. Is it helpful? I don't know. But Miguel, I've just noticed that they sound a little bit more studio pristine and stuff if you run them post-IR, reverbs and delays, and you can get some nice. So it's like adding in the studio if you do it like that. Versus in the effect loop, it's going to be a little bit more mojo, but it's going to be a little bit less studio-ish, you know, a little bit more whatever. And then in front of the amp is where you're the old school, where they blow up and can be great depending on how you set it. I hope that's helpful. What else we got talking about? What else are we talking about here? Sean says I'm clueless as far as this goes. Are you saying me? I'm clueless? Come on now. Hey, I don't know. I've done it every single way. As a matter of fact, or maybe you guys are talking about. Maybe you're not talking about me, Sean. Looks like you guys are arguing about something in the thing. Fill me in. Fill me in. What are you guys fighting about? You guys talking about the in-ears, I think, is what you're talking about. I think. I'm trying to read through your messages here and see what it is that you're talking about. I don't know. I can't ascertain. Somebody fill me in at the bottom. Somebody fill me in. Yeah, Sean, sorry. I know you're not bagging on me. You're saying that in-ears, which are speakers, also have small microphones built into them. Yeah, okay. Let me try and clarify these ASI in-ears. This is the speaker. This is the microphone. There's a microphone in the side of this in-ear. Can you see? Wait. It's this. It's very difficult to see, but it's this right here. That's a little microphone. This is the speaker. So the microphone signal comes in here. These are like mics. They go into this pack. In this pack, they get blended with, there's an input on this pack. That's this cable. This would plug into the receiver pack, right? So you get a Shure in-ear system or something like that. It's getting the signal from the desk. That comes in through here, into here. It's blended with the ambient mic signals. They're little microphones built into the in-ears. I know it's crazy, but check it out at the website, ASI Audio. And essentially, you put these in, and then you turn up the microphones, and now it sounds like they're not in. Make sense? Do I need to do my guy?
They're speakers. They're not microphones. It's an in-ear system.
Sorry, I don't mean to mock whoever's, but I do. I'm just having fun. For God's sakes, come on. Everybody gets a little fun poked at them every now and then. I make mistakes. Surf B says, you got to go. You're probably right. I should probably go. But I've got a few super chats to get to now. So Bruce Black, thank you very much, dude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. John says $6.99 for the ASI. Okay, $6.99. Sorry, I said $600. Yeah, $6.99. I remember it was, I don't know, $500, $600, whatever it takes. $6.99. One less than $700. How do you kill stage fright? The first thing that came to mind was, I don't know, a tequila and soda, but I don't want to recommend that. You know what? You just got to get out there and do it. Yeah, it's going to be, I still get stage fright. I don't know what the answer is, honestly. I've talked about things before, but I tend to watch guys like, Jack White and stuff that seem fearless and are kind of primitive and just go for it. And they recognize that it's supposed to be a show. And I try and get into that headspace. That's what I do. I think about guys like that are just like, they go for it. And you realize, the other thing to always realize is that mistakes like that you perceive, especially in in-ears and stuff, where it's like the guitar is right here and nobody's listening to that in the room. They're not paying attention to your little, you know what I mean? It's like, unless you make some catastrophic mistake, many little, like a missed note or whatever, people don't even notice that stuff in a live setting, so you got to keep it all in relative, amazing job with Pony, says Vincent. Thank you, man. I was so happy to watch that with the touring guitars Chris used. Yeah, the rack, if you watch the video, the rack of guitars beside me, those are actually Chris's touring guitars in his rack of touring guitars. So it was nice they were there. I found it interesting, actually, because there was 2 tape strips on the inside of the rack that had his PT100 settings from the last tour. So I was like, I didn't know how he actually used the amps and how they were set, but those were the strips that would have been on the tops of the amps, I guess, so the tech knew where to set them every day. Yeah. Can we talk EVH Hagar era solos? What do you think of When It's Love? When It's Love is cool. Great solo. What was his gear? I think he was still using the Marshall for all that. But he was, by then, maybe full Bradshaw rig, even in the studio. I think Dave Friedman told me that a while ago, that he actually was recording the Wet Dry Wet rig in the studio at that point for that record, that era. That's interesting. Like maybe he was loading down the amp because he was using the H&H's with the loaded down Marshall and stuff for a while. And I think so. Friedman would be the one to ask that question exactly, like probably what he was using. But from what I understand, he was using the loaded down Marshall rig at that point. I don't know about on 5150. I'm not sure about that. Wow, it's 2:17. I've gone a long time. You guys are getting bored of this, right? Come on now. Can't be that interested in listening to this Canadian talk about stuff. Oh, brother. I should go. I really enjoy doing this, so it's fun for me. So that's why you're seeing me hang on here. It's completely selfish. Yeah. Do some more mocking, says John.
It's a speaker. It's not a microphone.
No, it's a mic and a speaker. I'm sorry. I don't mean, listen, whoever's out there, I want to send you a free bag of coffee. Whoever I'm mocking right now. I'm not even sure who made the original comment, but yeah. Microphones are just picking up the ambient sound so you can hear people talk or not feel close off from that. That's correct. But you can actually okay, here's the thing with these. I do go way back with this style system. I had a set of the original Sensophonics ambient in-ears, 2008. I bought those. They were $2,500 for the pair. It was stupid money to spend, but that's how much I hated being closed off. And with those in-ears, what I realized was you can approach them more like a wedge, because now you can hear the stage. So you don't, like in an in-ear mix, when you close your ears off completely, now you got to get pretty much a full mix, because you can't hear anything. You can't hear yourself, can't hear anybody sing, you can't hear the drums, you can't hear anything. So now you're getting a full mix built in your in-ears. With the ambient system, now it's like, well, now I can hear the stage at whatever level I want. So now I just give me a little on my guitar, give me my vocal. You obviously need your vocal. Give me some lead vocal. But if there's side fills on the stage, you can hear those. Like maybe you don't even need, maybe give me a little kick and snare, but don't give me anything else. I can hear the drums, you know. Give me a little keys, because maybe that's not, but I can hear the bass, so don't give me that, you know. It's like you can approach them more like you're using a wedge, which is kind of neat, you know. It's pretty cool. You just get exactly what you need in the in-ears, as opposed to everything, you know, where you're building this full mix. So, well, that's interesting. See this? Ben Tom says, Dave Friedman said this week Eddie went for the full Bradshaw racking into the board. So there you go. Yeah, I recorded the full thing, full wet, dry, wet. Yeah. That is correct. Okay. What else we got here? Let's see. Where did you get your Hendrix wall art? I bought it from a guy on Venice Boardwalk. I don't know if he's there anymore doing stuff, but he was right on the Venice Boardwalk, like about like really close to where Rose hits Venice Boardwalk, little bit south, barely. And he just has this art set up. He doesn't have a site. He doesn't have I asked him, you got an Instagram or anything where people go? And he goes, no, I don't do any of that. He goes, I just paint and set it up here out on the boardwalk. And he had some other cool ones. I don't really remember right now, but they were cool. Like it's in that style. And I saw that. And I was like, damn, that'll look great in my studio. You know, I love it actually. Like he charged me $120 for it, I think. I was like, sold. Nope. I'm like, how much for that? He almost didn't want to sell it. It was funny. It was like, he's this funny, you know, very eccentric kind of artist guy, long hair and stuff. Just kind of like, you know, just he was almost like gruff. Didn't want to talk to me. And I was like, hey man, how much for that? And he's like, $120. Sold. I'll take it. And he's like, okay, cash. And I'm like, cash money. I gotta go to the ATM. I'll be right back. I took off, went, found an ATM, took out $120 and handed it to him. I said, I got to come back in, you know, like a couple hours, because I'm on a bike ride or whatever I was doing at that point. And I said, I got to go get my car, because my car was way far away. Sometimes I'll drive to Santa Monica and then take my bike, get on the bike and ride around. So once I was done my bike ride, I rode all the way back on my car, drove down there, parked it close, ran over. I'm here to pick it up. He handed it to me and threw it in the car. That's how that went. Yeah. Okay. What else? Stage fright. There's an interesting one. Look at the walls instead of the crowd. You know what I do instead of that? Instead of looking at the crowd, I look at one person. And I try and, you know, it's like sometimes when you look at one person, they're smiling and they're stoked. You're like, well, that person's having a good time. Why aren't I? You know, like I make it more, instead of big, I go small, you know, and then it's like, if you focus on somebody that looks like they're having fun, I don't know, that tends to work for me. But I guess you could do the look at the wall thing. I've never tried that. I don't think. Yeah, it's important to think about with live performance about focusing your energy outward on the crowd, so that they feel like you always, you know, like play to the guy in the back row was great advice, you know, like try and make them feel, you know, that feeling when you're at a show and you're a kid and they're like, they looked at me. He was looking right at me. It was so cool. Because you're in your, I guess, I don't know if people even feel that anymore, but when I was a kid and there wasn't even MTV yet, and there wasn't even, you know, like there was certainly no internet and stuff. It was more like when those people showed up on stage in your hometown, it was like they were superheroes, right? We've talked about this before, I think, but it was like, wow, they're actually like Eddie Van Halen's in Edmonton, right in front of me. That's amazing. Just the fact that, you know, you only seen them in photos and maybe on TV a little bit. It was like so cool. You were so excited that you were there and they were there, and it was this thing. So to make those people feel connected with you that's the magic of live music. So if you stare at the ground or at the wall, they might not feel that. That's the only thing. So you face that fear head on and look out there and realize that those people are there to have a good time. They don't care about a missed note or a broken string. Merry New Year, Fab. Merry New Year to you, sir. Merry New Year, Fab. Thank you for your super chat. And hey, have a great New Year. All the best to you. And I appreciate it. You're going to keep me in coffee now for the next week at least. Go get some more intelligentsia beans and hop up that Italian machine we have here. Yeah. Oh, you guys, I guess I got to go. I don't want to go. I want to keep going, but Sean says just ignore us. I don't want to ignore you. I'm here with you. Let's see. If I can't hear my drummer acoustically, I just get back onto the bus. I like that. That's it. I feel the same way. That's when I just pull the ears out and just, enjoy the ear damage. Hey, I got a hearing test this week. My hearing is rocking. When I went to get the molds done for this, I had a hearing test done, and she said, you are doing great. Like, even for being a musician, like, take that out of the equation. Even for just normal, like, if you weren't a musician, your ears would be really, really good for your age. So I'm like, cool. A little dip at 6K in one ear, my right, I think. But other than that, really, really good. Just a little bit of standard kind of loss that most people would have. But even for that, she said, your genetics are probably good because you're doing just fine. So I was stoked about that. Hell Scott Music says, have they cleaned up Venice yet? Otherwise I would not go there. Yeah. Venice was getting a little crazy. There's a lot of homeless people down there, which I feel the plight of those folks a lot. LA's a tough town. To make your way in. You better do well here, because otherwise you're in trouble, So if you do well, that's great. And if you don't, it can be difficult. But anyway, there was a lot of folks living on the Venice boardwalk, like hundreds and hundreds of people, all the way down the Strand. And they, because of laws here, which I personally totally agree with, by the way, they can only move people when they have a place to take them. And they figured that all out. And then they relocated people, evidently. That's what I've been told. Gave people a place to go. So yeah, long story short, it's back to, what you saw before pre-pandemic, and that was a giant, obviously undertaking, to get people to where someplace where they could go. So anyways, the encampment, says Bent Tom. Yeah, it's all completely, it's like it was never there, I guess, just people were camping out on the beach, essentially, building like, tents and stuff like that all the way down. And then they, changed all that. So, Big in Japan. Thank you, man, for the super chat. I appreciate it. I do. Venice still smells like pee and malt liquor. Praise the Lord. I love Venice. Venice is LA in many ways, and I don't mean like it's not like government segregation or something like that, but in many ways LA is a very segregated sort of city where you've still got your, like, this is where these folks live and this is where these folks live in this neighborhood. It's like kind of like that. Not as, New York City is like a melting pot where in the city, I mean, maybe not people living there, but like when you're in the city and you're doing, you know what I mean? Like it's like a melting pot of people, which is that energy of New York City is awesome. I love that. It's one of the greatest cities in the world for that reason, right? It's just a little bit of everything. It's very exciting. It's like you can feel it, that energy. Venice Beach has a little bit of that going on, whereas a lot of parts of LA don't. So everybody's in their cars, first of all, and I feel like neighborhoods are very, like still, sort of like, you know what I mean? But Venice is like everybody. And I like that energy down there. It's like kind of, it's a cool, not all the time, but it's a wild, like you say, it smells. There can be a little bit of that, like New York. There's that. You clean up New York too much, and all of a sudden it's lost part of what's, the original. When Times Square was kind of a bit of a shit show or whatever. A lot of people sort of talk about those days with the missed that. Like whatever, it probably smelled like pee and malt liquor and the porno theaters and everything that was going on in Times Square. Now it's now it looks like a shopping mall, right? So I have a certain I like grunge cities, sometimes too. It's like, I like that kind of, element. It's interesting. Like when they cleaned up Yonge Street. Yeah, Yonge Street. Well, definitely there was New York or Canada, right? Toronto. And yeah, for sure. Similar. And Toronto's more of a melting pot than any other city in Canada, I think. And it's got a little bit of everything. It's really fun that way. I love that stuff, man, because I'm a citizen of the earth. When it, at the end of the day, I love going places and finding out it's interesting. It's boring to me if it's too sanitized. I like the mix and the little tension, and I don't know, it's fun. It's just where I'm coming from. It makes me, I guess, sets me up for being a good touring musician, I suppose. Jay's there in the sent me a super sticker. I'm talking very quickly. Sent me a super sticker. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. It's 2:30. I really should go. Went a half an hour over. Horse says last time he was in Venice was 93. It's changed, but not changed. Yeah. Lawrence is not just homelessness, it's mental. Well, it's all one big, isn't it? Mental illness, drug addiction, the whole thing. Good to hear it's better. Yeah, I mean, that's where, you can't just kick people out and expect, you got to offer some sort of, some sort of alternative. That's not the answer. So in a civilized society, now is it? Had my hearing tested. It's better than it was 5 years ago, says John. That's interesting. Mine's about the same as it was 10 years ago. So as far as I remember what my hearing, I thought it was at 4K. I had a little dip, but she said 6K. So I'm sure that hasn't changed. Maybe about the same. Yeah. Jim says that he used to have stage fright younger, about 40 years ago. I went through bouts of it, or I still do. I mean, it's weird. I still have, I got better. I actually went through kind of a bit of a phase, not like in recent times, in the last 10 years, of having more stage fright than I can ever remember having. It's probably got to do with the internet and stuff, because I know everybody from, Robin Ford to Peter Frampton, they don't like all these cameras stuck in their face all the time. People filming and putting things up on, instantly on the internet. That was just a new thing that didn't used to exist. And it's like, it really is uncomfortable, but it's a reality. But man, is it ever hard, as a performer, especially if you're want to go for it and take some chances. It's like you feel so much pressure, because it's like the I guess that's probably what it is it was those elements that made me feel more like, it's like a vulnerable thing where you're the whole world's watching you, instead of just these 300 people in this club or whatever, or 10,000 people in an arena or whatever it may be. But it used to be easier to because it's also the shittiest way to listen to music is on one of these things. It's the most awful, critical, there's nothing that sounds good about it coming out of one of these. And all you hear is the raw little notes and stuff. There's none of the ambience and the volume and the things that, with a live show. So you're left with just this clinical little representation of whatever was going on at the show. And if there's an error or, a little flub or train wreck or whatever it may be, it sounds way more dramatic on something like this. It's like all you hear is it's just awful, So I guess it's some of that we all deal with these days. Here's a fella that says, thanks. Christopher says, thanks for the Moss valve link, getting TC Electronic BAM 200 Class D mini head from my EVM 12L 112. Half price of SD Power Stage, meant for bass, but should work for guitar modeling power amp. I would think so. Yeah. It's a little different thing, the Class D thing, but it should work fine, I think, and similar to probably the Seymour Duncan, the Class D power amps. It's new. They're high power. They're really loud. They've got a lot of, I'm sort of partial to the old Moss, the MOSFET power amps. There's a certain warmth for guitar, that was cool, so I know it's more weight and more, whatever, but if it works great for you, you should be able to get a terrific sound out of it, and it'll work, so a little different thing. The Feline Empire says, I'm afraid to play in front of my cat. Here, you guys want to see a funny picture real quick here, and then I'm going to go because now I'm starving. I'll show you a funny photo I took last night. Last night I was at the annual Clear Mountains Christmas party, which was really, really, really fun. And Bob's cat is this is Bob's cat. Look at that. Oh, can you? It's a little bright, but that's a cute kitty right there. It's a girl named Walter. There's us last night in front of the. Bob's got his Santa hat on. Can you see it? It's a little bright with the. That's some great guitar players in that picture. That's who we got there. Josh Gooch and Corey Churko. They both play with Shania Twain. That's the bass player with Shania Twain's band there. You got Bob in the middle. And anyways, we had a nice time. That's in his studio. But here's Kitty on the console. Kitty on the SSL. Come on now. It's a little hard to see the knobs, but he's sitting on the board. Oh, yeah. He's the only one that gets to do that in that studio. She. Sorry. I keep saying he because the cat's name is Walter, but it's a girl. There you go. All right. With that, guys, I'm going to go. Hey, happy holidays to y'all. Everybody have a safe week and a enjoyable week with your families or whatever you're going to do this week. If you celebrate Christmas, if you celebrate Hanukkah, whatever you do, enjoy winter solstice. Just have a terrific time. Be nice to one another. And next week, it'll be Sunday. I will be in Canada, but I will do this from my hotel. I might not stay on super long because it'll be the last day that I kind of get to spend up there, but I'll go for at least an hour, hour and a half or something next week. Same time. It'll be 11:30, so it'll be 12:30. So keep the time the same. It'll be it'll be 12:30. I'll be in Edmonton. It'll be Edmonton time. And whatever else, do it from my hotel room with the old laptop. And we can chat and talk about everybody's Christmas, what everybody got for Christmas, all your fun gifts. And I just hope you have a terrific week. So we'll see you next Sunday. Have an awesome week. Thank you to everybody for the super chats. You guys are too kind. We're going to stock up on coffee around here. Take care. Over and out.